let me tell you about this story that features a goblin. He actually got betrayed and then he was killed. And then he pulls off a classic comeback. He's reborn, but this time he packs some serious new power. So every single kid he is actually makes him that much stronger. So let's stop stalling and head back to the very start. It is time to see where this whole story actually began. Things get wild once the goblin boss kicks the bucket. Two soldiers immediately start brawling over his weapon. A goblin gets mad and tackles the club owner, claiming he is the new leader. They are both strong, so they keep trading blows. The rest watch and cheer on the fight. One of them remembers the prisoners left behind. They decide to go grab them while everyone is busy. Then they realize the guy guarding those captives should be showing up at any moment. Right on time, he walks in. He is a goblin, but looks different. Everyone freezes because his clothes make him look almost human. The group follows behind him. They think he is going to lead them right to the prisoners from the late chief. A small monster notes the heavy hitters are fighting. He says they should jump in later. The guardian feels like something is off. Suddenly, he hears a scream and sprints toward the prisoner. He's worried about what is happening to her and takes off running. The guys eventually find the cave holding her. When the guardian arrives, he catches a group of goblins swarming a young woman. One of the small creatures just stares at her. She is panicking and thinks the end has finally arrived. She is shaking with terror and starts screaming, begging for someone to come save her. The guardian wants to spare her, so he tells them to let her go. The leader says the chief is dead, making the girl his prize. The meanest goblin steps up. He warns the boy that things will get ugly. Then the leader orders the crew to attack. The goblins flood the young man to keep the woman. He starts to panic while he is surrounded by all those monsters. He cannot believe these low-level creeps are winning. That does not make sense, but suddenly he decides he is not dying today. He realizes he wants to live, so he does something reckless. He pulls out a knife and takes one down. Now the others are terrified. He warns them he is not going down without a fight. When the monster catches sight of the blade, he completely freaks out. One goblin shouts to run because the kid is armed. He is totally wiped out, but he still manages to scare them away. She was almost a prisoner to those creeps. She thanks her hero, but he looks drained. He is weak, so she begs him to survive. After she wraps things up, Lin Tian gets lost in thought about his past. He used to be just a normal guy. One day a random system screen just popped up on him. Then a truck hit him and he woke up as a goblin. The catch is the screen only shows the basics. It does not have any cool features or extra stuff. Still, the girl is helping him figure out where he is right now. That acts as his introduction to the world the gods built. It is packed with some seriously scary monsters. He realizes humans flex their power to take over the whole continent, but here he is, just a lowly goblin. He is honestly the weakest and ugliest monster around. His stats are so bad that even other goblins could probably take him down. Looking at her, he remembers how to actually get stronger. He just needs to start a family with a girl. Apparently, goblins get a power boost from mating. Since there are no female goblins, they just kidnap women instead. He thinks that whole thing is just plain wrong. Since he used to be human, the idea is pretty gross. But she cuts him off before he can say anything else. Her guardian knows he is different from the others. She has zero interest in living with a bunch of goblins. Lin Tian is caught off guard by her once more. She says when the Night Order saves her, she will tell them he helped. Maybe they will actually let him live in their village. Then he spots something that really creeps him out. He warns her that the other goblins are coming back for her. He tells her to hide right now as fast as she can. So he is back to protecting her while getting ready to fight. Then some nasty, desperate goblin shows up. Lin Tian is not going to let anyone touch this girl. He moves fast and stabs the goblin with his knife. He tells her the humans are here to rescue her. This news makes her incredibly happy to hear. She thinks it is the Sacred Order and runs straight toward them. Lin Tian suddenly stops in his tracks when he sees something weird. He finds a crazy strong guy taking out goblins with one hit. He cannot believe someone this powerful is actually real. but the hero looks totally annoyed. He just realized those gross monsters ripped his Sacred Order uniform. Lin Tian checks Loader's stats, and they are just wild. He wonders if the guy is even human. He has never seen numbers that high since he arrived here. The girl runs to her savior and calls him Captain. Lin Tian is seriously impressed by how he fought, but then he sees something that ruins the whole mood. It turns out this guy is not here to help at all. Lin Tian sees Loader is about to kill her. He jumps in to save her life yet again. He acts like a hero and pushes the girl away. Now he is feeling pretty confused by this. Why did the Sacred Order show up if they are not saving anyone? Lower is totally ticked off that a little goblin dodged his attack. Then the girl keeps her promise to Lin. She tells the captain that the monster actually saved her. Lower does not take that well and gets absolutely furious. He thinks she is lying to make him look bad. He decides to just finish her off right there. Lin Tian cannot believe it and rushes in again. Our guy has officially run out of patience. He tells the girl to get lost and points out the safe way out. Then Lin Tian just decides to go for it. He charges at Loader with nothing but a club in his hands. Suddenly, a bright light cuts right through the dark cave. He just stands there, frozen with his eyes wide open. A woman shows up out of nowhere and tells Loader to cool it. Meanwhile, Lin Tian finds himself locked inside a glowing magic shield. A powerful mage arrives with a whole squad of knights. She tells the captain the goblin looks kind of strange. The prisoner drops to his knees and cries out. He calls her the Holy Maiden and begs for her help. The girl is desperate, so she begs the mage to save him. Then the Holy Maiden turns and asks if Lin Tian can actually understand her. He finally feels a spark of hope, knowing it is Freya. She is the famous spokesperson for the temple. He figures this is his one real shot. He tells her that he understands what she is saying. He's feeling pretty good about getting saved. He tells the mage he's not a monster. He's actually a human reincarnated after an accident. Loader says he seems way smarter than the others. The mage thinks he might be a gift from the Sacred Mother. Freya asks Kelia if the boy ever hurt her. Kelia quickly admits that he never hurt her. He actually protected her and even shared his food. The Holy Maiden thinks he is just too special. She decides to bring him back to the village for study. They will figure out what to do with him after that. With a little smile, the mage asks if he wants to join them. Lin Tian knows this is his only way to leave. He tells the saint that he is definitely in. Once Freya drops the shield, Lin Tian feels a huge weight lift off. Finally, it feels like someone is actually listening to him. Now, he can prove he is truly innocent. As they head out of the cave, the mage tells Loader to follow them. Lin Tian thanks his savior for being so kind. He tells her he will definitely pay her back. But then things get really messed up and weird. Out of nowhere, Loader just drives his sword right into Kelia's stomach. Lin Tian realizes what just happened and looks back fast. He sees the captain finishing off his own protege. He is completely devastated by the sight of it. Through his goblin vision, he sees Kelia lying there lifeless. Lin Tian is just stunned by the sight. His friend was murdered by the person she thought was her savior. Then the poor guy just completely snaps right now. He cannot even process what is happening right in front of him. The Holy Maiden gives him a dark and sarcastic look. She tells him he better reward her once they get to the village. 1 week later, the church bell rings to gather the whole town. Loader stands right next to the Holy Maiden. He gives a speech about how the goblin attack ruined their peaceful little home. The captain tells everyone that the monsters use stealth attacks. It turns out the monsters killed 30 of their residents. The villagers get furious and scream that goblins are total scum. Now humans and monsters are officially mortal enemies. Lure starts to show photos of the victims. He says the Sacred Order purified the monsters and avenged the village. Then the Holy Maiden decides to take over. She tells everyone to keep praying to the temple. The mage claims the temple looks after everyone. Naturally, the villagers eat it up. The scene shifts to a creepy lab hidden in a library. Once they are gone, the Holy Maiden calls the villagers fools. Ephraim laughs. He knows they will keep praying and handing over their cash. We see where Lin Tian ends up. He is locked in a cage with a muzzle on. He begs for help, but the maiden ignores him. The poor guy is missing an eye and he is livid. He glares at Ephraim and calls him a total piece of trash. Lin is pinned to a wall covered in scars. Ephraim is surprised he is still breathing. He thinks that is why goblins are tough to kill. The maiden decides to test a stronger poison on him. She wants to see his limit. Lin has clearly reached his end. Lin feels truly hopeless. He remembers the order killed Kelia. He asks if this is justice, and she hits his chin with a branch. The maiden finds his plea for justice hilarious. Ephraim calls goblins insects. She tells Lin that simply talking to him is a huge favor. She blasts him with a spell and tells him to be thankful. Now his body can be a useful tool for their research. The maiden engages a magic circle. She starts sucking the energy out of him. Lin cannot find a way to stop it. He starts regretting that he was ever nice. He is just a low-level goblin, but he thought people were fair. He remembers when they brought him to the village. Loder and Ephraim tortured him like a lab rat. They ignored every word he said. The boy finally snaps. The maiden finishes him off without a thought. Lin dies vowing to crush the humans if he gets another chance. Then things get strange. As he ponders death, Lin wakes up in a virtual space. He wonders if he is dead or alive. Suddenly, a goblin system appears. It asks if he wants to be reborn. Lin realizes his system only powers up after he dies. He cannot believe he is getting a second chance. He is still stuck starting from the bottom as a low-level goblin. He checks the options. If he says no, he vanishes. If he picks yes, he goes back 1 week with his memories. Perfect plan. He is getting really hyped now. He can finally take his sweet revenge on Loder and Ephraim. Lin is totally pumped and taps yes. Just like that, the system starts his goblin life reboot. Man, our guy is beyond furious that these humans stabbed him in the back. He is absolutely dead set on getting his revenge now. Along with his new start, Lin Tian gets a little bonus from the system. It is a pretty nice power boost to have. He's actually feeling pretty stoked about it. Hey, even a tiny bit of help is better than zero. But then the system drops a huge bombshell. He finds out the danger is not over yet. The Sacred Order is closing in on him. If he dies now, it is game over for good. Dian asks the system what else it can do. Turns out he can run a simulation of the future every 24 hours. Each run shows him a few ways things might go down. Now he's starting to get really excited about it. These simulations give him points he can trade for sweet gear. Plus, he gets a sneak peek at what is coming. He does not waste a second and tells the system to start it up. The system gives him a few ways to escape the cave. Option 1 is to warn the other goblins. He can team up and fight Loder and his crew for 10 points. The second option is way easier than the first. He can leave the other monsters behind and run for 5 points. Then there is just hiding in the cave and praying Loder misses him. Unfortunately, that choice does not give him any points at all. Lin Tian just stands there for a second. He is trying to figure out the best move to make. He takes a good look at that first option. He knows they cannot win against Loder, even with the goblins. Running away seems like the best bet here. But he decides to test every option first. He wants as many points as possible for a new weapon. Sadly, that first try turns out to be a total disaster. Loder easily wipes out him and the goblins. Still, he manages to walk away with 10 points. Just like he thought, those little monsters are not exactly reliable. But he is pretty happy with the points he earned. He tells the system to open up the shop. Lin Tian sees some powerful weapons, but they cost way too much. Then he spots a fast elven dagger in the list. It costs 10 points, which is exactly what he just earned. He does not hesitate and grabs the weapon. It gives him 10% speed and 15% strength. This dagger is super sharp and could be fatal in the right spot, but he is still worried about his friend. He asks the system to find out where Kelly went. The system tells him things changed after he reincarnated. In this new life, the goblins never captured the girl. Now she is living happily in her village. Lin Tian is completely stunned by this news. He is genuinely happy to know his friend is safe. Since Kelly is out of danger, he feels like he kept his promise. Now he can finally focus on his other problems. He figures out the best path and runs toward the exit. The weakest guards are the ones stationed there. One soldier is complaining about how much he hates goblins. The other just tells him to be patient since it is an easy job. Right at that moment, he hears some voices nearby. Lin Tian quickly finds out what Loader is actually planning. He wants to kill all the kidnapped girls in the cave. That is why those two guards are there. Seeing the Sacred Order kill innocent people just to keep their power makes him dead certain about his revenge. He knows his only choice is to fight. If they do this to humans, imagine what they would do to a goblin. He decides to set a trap for the guards. Our boy mimics a girl's voice and asks for help from inside the cave. Loader's soldier falls for it and goes in to finish off the girl. The guard acts all sweet and says he will help her home, but he gets a nasty surprise. Out of nowhere, our guy stabs him with that crazy dagger. Lin Tian really hates humans, so he does not hold back. He tells the guard this is only the start of the goblin revenge. The soldier just lays there shaking in pain. The other guard walks up and has no clue what happened. He asks why his buddy is taking so long. Lin Tian just smiles. He is so stoked that his plan is actually working. He lunges right at the second guard with his blade. The poor guy is totally confused and desperate. Lin Tian just smacks him in the face and knocks him flat. He jumps on the guard with so much rage. That dagger is seriously sharp, just like he thought it was. Lin Tian manages to leave a deep cut on the soldier. Now the guard hits the dirt in total despair. He figures his time is finally up. He asks Lin Tian if he knows how to speak human. The guard is begging for his life now. He tries to get some sympathy by showing a picture of his family. He claims they are waiting at home for him. The guard sees him hesitate and thinks he has a chance. He claims he was just following orders from the Sacred Order. He even offers gold and women to win him over. But it is a total lie. He is just waiting for a chance to grab his weapon. The guard thinks Lin Tian is distracted by the bribes. He attacks the boy and calls him a stupid beast. But then something totally unexpected happens. Lin Tian is just way too fast for him. He uses his dagger to hit the traitor before he can even land a blow. That is how the first part of his revenge kicks off. Our boy is determined to make this new life count. Humans betrayed him once and he is not letting it happen again. He feels way more confident that his revenge will actually work. Then he hears the voice of Loader nearby. He figures the captain is coming for him, so he acts fast and swipes the guard's clothes. He slips away with the outfit in his hand. He tells himself he will find Loader and Freya soon. Right then, the captain and the holy maiden show up at the scene. Loader wonders if a goblin really killed those guys. Freya thinks it might be a mutant monster. She figures anything that can take out two guards has to be special. The captain says it would be a disaster if the village found out. Loader stomps on the injured guard. He yells that the guy is useless for losing to one single goblin. Meanwhile, Freya is actually getting excited. She loves the idea of hunting a mutant monster. She gets a dark look and says she will have a lot of fun catching him. Now we are in the forest where the boy escaped. Lin Tian feels a huge weight off his shoulders. His plan worked and he is finally out of that dark cave. While he eats, he decides to do things the goblin way. He will use pure ferocity to boost his stats and power. He wants men to crave death and women to weep at his feet. He spots the bushes moving and wonders if Loader is still hunting him. Then hooded figure steps out from the brush. The kid leaps at the intruder before he can fight back. The guy gets so spooked, he trips right over a rock. Lin Tian is stunned to see a real goblin. He barely believes his eyes. Then he realizes this thing can actually talk and show emotions. Still, he keeps his guard up. That intruder was sneaking around for a reason. Wait, he notices something weird. The goblin looks feminine. That is strange, because goblins are usually male and have to find mates from other species. The girl goblin is shaking. She begs him not to hurt her. She claims she was just grabbing water, but he does not buy it. He wonders how a monster uses full sentences. Then Lin Tian checks her stats. It says mating with a female makes him a goblin god. This is his shot to get strong enough for his enemies. She is terrified and admits her boss sent her for water. If she fails, she gets beaten to death. She is surprised that this goblin is actually nice to her. Lin Tian tells her to stop crying, or she will draw Lodor and his crew here. She is shocked that he can talk just like her. He tells her yes, he can. He remembers that most goblins cannot talk properly. That is why she never spoke with her own tribe. She thinks he is kind because the others just hit her. She asks him to visit the village. Lin Tian sees another way to level up. He is excited to hear there is a tribe nearby, but he is still worried about Lauder and needs a safe spot first. Still, he is focused on his revenge and getting stronger. He tells the girl he will head to the village with her. He's looking for followers to recruit. He asks her to lead the way, and they soon reach the village. The other goblins are curious about the stranger. They start mocking his human clothes and laughing at how weird he looks. Lin Tian thinks this is perfect for his revenge plans. He tries to earn their trust and asks to speak to the boss. The goblins just laugh at him. They say the chief is way too important to meet someone like him. His new friend yells at them to cut it out. She says he's a good guy. Just then, someone asks why the whole tribe is making such a racket. Lin Tian is excited because the chief finally showed up. The leader marches over and he is furious about all the noise. Our guy quickly checks the chief's stats. He is shocked to find such a high-level goblin in this tribe. The chief asks if the girl brought this stranger along. She explains that the boy had nowhere else to go. The leader is actually pleased and thanks her. Suddenly, the chief orders the goblins to feast on Lin Tian. The girl is shaking with fear as they close in on her. But Lin reacts fast and whips out his dagger. Lin holds the knife out for the leader and his crew to see. He tells them he knows how to craft weapons just like it. He offers to make everyone stronger if they let him inside the group. The chief gets curious and calls off the attack. The leader marches right up to the boy. He really wants more power, so he decides to trust him for now. He asks exactly what kind of weapons Lin can actually forge. Lin starts laying out his plan right away. He says if they bring him some ore, he can forge iron weapons. Later, he can craft even better gear that is way stronger. He tells the chief they could eventually even take down humans. The goblins are super excited about this news. They start dreaming about all the meat and not hiding in the woods anymore. They even talk about how much they prefer eating fresh elves. The leader decides to give him a shot. He has 3 days to find iron ore, or it is game over. The chief points at the girl and says she is tagging along. If Lin fails, he says she will suffer just like him. Then the leader leaves after laying down the ground rules. Lin hugs the girl and whispers that the old guy is heartless. He knows he needs time to build weapons and get stronger. It is time for them to get moving and start the mission. Lin and his new friend head out with some monsters to find ore. After a while, the girl asks them to take a break. She is completely worn out from walking around all day. One of the small monsters gets annoyed and gives her a kick. He calls her ugly and threatens to kill her if she finds nothing. A female goblin tells her to quit her whining. The other goblins jump in to hit her and call her lazy. They are all laughing and mocking her now. Suddenly, Lin chucks a rock right at the head of one goblin. Lin quickly steps up to defend his friend. He reminds the goblins they are here to mine for ore and not to fight. He has had enough and tells them to start listening if they want to survive. He warns them that if they do not listen, he will end them with his blade. The little monsters start shivering with fear. They start backing away from the girl. They mutter that the boss will never forgive him after this. Lin gets a little worried because they are right. Even if he succeeds, he is still in big trouble. Lin studies the girl and suddenly remembers something interesting. A male and female goblin can create a legendary divine goblin. He sees her shaking and tells her not to cry. He decides to give her the new name of Moon. Lin goes over to comfort her. He holds her face in his hands and asks if she wants to stay by his side. He promises to protect her and provide food and a nice warm home. Lin says he always keeps his word, but they are both too weak right now. He asks for her help so they can get stronger. Moon is eager to leave those monsters behind and asks what to do. Lin tells her that having children will make him much stronger. Then he will finally be able to protect her properly. Moon feels totally confused and super embarrassed. She admits she has never mated before. He tries to persuade her by saying he will handle everything. Suddenly, something completely unexpected happens right there. Lin leans in and kisses Moon right then and there. Then he holds her hands to try and start an intimate moment. Moon is super keen to help her friend power up, so she asks Lin Tian if she can have his babies. While they get to it, the system pops up with big news. He learns he will have 7 kids, and it raises his level cap. That level boost gives him 9 more attack plus 100 health and 10 defense. Lin Tian looks like a completely different guy now. He checks his status and sees he has gotten way more muscular. He is hyped because his body changed. Now they have a shot at the priest. His clothes do not fit, so he tosses them. He tells his companion she belongs to him now. He promises to protect her. Suddenly they hear goblins yelling for help while digging for iron. A huge magic wolf pops out and attacks a little monster scurrying away. Lin Tian is shocked they actually found the iron ore, but he is also worried because they are clearly in big trouble. He remembers his promise, so he tells her not to move. He heads straight toward the beast as it prepares to snack on the monster. He rushes in with his sharp dagger in hand. With his new strength and speed, he slices the neck and saves the goblin. The little monster freezes and stares back in pure shock. Lin Tian managed to finish off the wolf with one powerful strike. Once the dust clears, our hero absorbs the magical power from the beast. Then he gives the goblin props for finding that ore. Lin Tian tells the goblin that finding the material is huge. He tells them to keep digging so they can make real weapons. Everyone heads back. The goblins are blown away to see that Lin Tian made a legit weapon. He shows them exactly how well it works on beasts. Lin Tian shows the iron spear made from forest ore. One goblin grew stronger from the hunt. He tells the tribe the boy saved them. To win over their trust, Lin Tian holds his spear up high. He asks if they want a strong weapon, and everyone shouts yes. The tribe chief does not seem happy about his success. He slams his staff onto the ground to take total control of the room. The priest confirms to Lin Tian that his story was not a lie. Even the chief admits he is impressed by his forging ability. The leader wants to prove the boy is no hero. He claims staying in the tribe will not be easy. He demands 50 spears soon. The demand is almost impossible. The goblins grumble that their chief is worse than any human. Lin Tian smiles because his plan is actually working. The chief looks totally stunned that Lin Tian actually finished all 50 spears on time. Lin Tian lets him know the job is completely done. Now the goblins are all cheering with excitement for him. The leader is clearly thrilled that he managed such an impossible task. He makes sure to praise him once more for the effort. Then the priest tells everyone they get to feast on meat tonight. It is to celebrate officially welcoming Lin Tian into the tribe. The boy had a plan, and it was going perfectly. Everyone was in high spirits, mostly because there was finally plenty of meat to go around. Right then, Lua hands him some roasted meat. She says it is special and a personal gift from the priest himself, so he just takes it and starts digging in. But something goes wrong almost immediately. He starts feeling sick while he eats. Lua asks if he is alright, but he is already choking on the meat. The tribe chief walks over, leaving poor Lua terrified. He laughs at Lin Tian for being so gullible. He claims he knew the boy was ambitious and that challenging his rule leads to one place: death. Then he drops a hand onto Lua's head. He clearly figures Lin Tian is too weak to save her. He mocks the boy, asking if he actually cares about her. Seeing that the boy cares, the leader decides to put on a show. He calls Lua a traitor and says he will cut her neck. He wants to teach the boy a brutal lesson. It looks like the end for Lua, facing those sharp claws. But suddenly, Lin Tian springs up. He strikes the chief's arm, surprising everyone and saving his companion in the process. The arrogant leader looks terrified now. He cannot figure out how a poisoned boy pulled that off. Lin Tian just laughs, calling him a fool for falling into his trap. He knew about the poison and purely acted the part. Realizing he was played like a fool makes the old man absolutely furious. He is missing an arm, but he still charges in to finish things. The boy is ready for it. He dodges that clumsy attack and lands another clean hit on the chief. The long reign of this goblin tyrant has finally ended. Lin Tian and his razor-sharp dagger are about to be the executioners. After dodging another swing, he counterattacks and cuts that treacherous rat's head clean off. The old goblin is done for. The monsters see their boss die and fall into a total panic. Lin Tian walks toward the frightened goblins and says something that changes everything. Our guy tells the little monsters that he is their new leader now. He promises to lead them to war against the elves and the humans. Raising his dagger, he tells them they will always be well fed under his rule. The goblins go wild at the promise and start cheering for him. Then, Lin Tian points to the old body, offering it as a celebration gift. The monsters scramble forward, rushing toward the remains. Irrational and starving, they start to devour the body of their former cruel leader. Lin Tian notes that conquering this tribe is just the start of his revenge. Next, he plans to make the elves breed a stronger generation, but something is watching them hidden in the bushes. A beautiful elf is spying on them, clearly surprised to see it all. Nearby, a strange structure hangs in a tree, showing goblins as a warning. A girl seems relieved to see her princess return home safe. So the spy is actually an elven princess. She needs to deliver an urgent report to the matriarch. Kasana walks into her mother's private chambers to drop some big news about the eastern forest. But what she finds inside is definitely not what she expected. Her mother is lounging around, getting flirted with by a whole crowd of male elves. Kasana is mortified seeing her mother acting so scandalous while real danger is looming outside. She tries to turn around and leave immediately, but the queen calls out for her to wait and explain why she barged in looking so frantic. The princess explains again that she has a serious update regarding the goblin tribe in the forest. The queen just mocks her, asking why she is so worried about such weak and filthy little pests. Kasana reports that she found a giant bear carcass in the woods that did not look like goblin work. She also mentions seeing a mysterious guy kill the former goblin leader a few days ago. She thinks the two events might actually be connected. The only part the queen cares about is the new village leader. She tells Kasana to take some soldiers and clear out any threats. But she adds a weird warning not to wipe out the whole tribe all at once. While caressing a guy, the queen mentions that goblin hearts are actually pretty valuable for their special potions. Kasana is super embarrassed by the whole vibe, but she nods and says she gets why they need to keep some goblins around. Her mother then teases her for working so hard and offers a man as a reward to satisfy her. Kasana is totally mortified by these suggestions. She bolts out of the room, promising to investigate at night and report back later. The goblins are busy planning the attack using branches to draw a map in the dirt. They tell Lin Tian there are about 30 treehouses in the forest. He is thrilled and promises his best soldier 2 elf girls once they own the place. The right-hand man is pumped by that promise and goes to get the other goblins ready for battle. So the new leader starts putting his attack plan into action. Based on the intel, Lin Tian does the math on their numbers. He figures there are 2 elves per house, bringing the total to 70, including the 10 working in the mines. In order to make his tribe stronger, our boy tells the goblins that from now on, they will hunt in the magical forest, making everyone jump for joy. This way, Lin Tian is able to increase his attributes more quickly and gain a wider variety of acquired skills. The constant hunting really makes the goblins tougher. Lin Tian and Lua keep grinding against magical monsters around the clock. They gather new abilities and just keep getting stronger and stronger. The goblins start using group tactics to take down big beasts and level up together. Thanks to their devouring ability, they pick up tons of new powers, raising their overall level to 18 and their total power to 250. Lin Tian does a quick strategic analysis and figures out that each elf has about 200 strength points. So, our hero realizes the goblin tribe is officially stronger than the elves. Since they are heading into enemy territory, he plays it safe by using the system to simulate the attack first. He puts in the request, and the goblin battle simulation starts running. Lin Tian leads his army into the fight, feeling super confident since they got so much stronger lately. But he gets a little too cocky. The monsters walk right into an ambush, get caught in a snare, and get wiped out. The elves catch Lin Tian, who ends up hanging in the forest as a grisly warning. The system basically tells him he thought he was in control, but he was actually just being played. He is in total disbelief that things went so wrong after the simulation. Lin Tian realizes the goblin tribe has been watched by the enemy. That explains how the elves managed to pull off this ambush. He tells his soldiers to stay alert and pay attention. These monsters have keen hearing and a sharp sense of smell. They need to hunt down the spy among them right now. It does not take long for him to detect someone hiding nearby. Using his magical power, he spots the spy crouching behind a tree. The night is beautiful and bright under the moonlight. The princess and her soldiers are retreating fast. They don't know they have been spotted by the enemy. They plan to warn their matriarch about the potential attack. Then several glowing arrows fly toward the group of fugitives. To everyone's surprise, one of them hits the princess right in the buttocks. Anna screams in total shock at the attack. She cannot believe she has been captured like this. Finally, she collapses down onto the hard ground. The princess is terrified because she is now paralyzed. Her soldiers are stuck in place just like her. The goblins cheer for Lin Tian for his great shot. He wonders if the poison makes her look strange. Lin Tian mocks her for her poor performance. He didn't expect it to be this easy to win. He is happy the plan is working out perfectly. He tells her they arrived at just the right time. The new leader orders the prisoners brought to the tribe. At the village, one monster throws water on the elf. He yells that the boss has finally arrived. Anna looks completely defeated and weak right now. Lin Tian walks up to stand before the princess. He says goblin fluid causes paralysis and also intense arousal. This gives them a big advantage over the elven society. The princess is furious and asks how they dare capture her. Anna says her mother has been merciful to them. If they hurt her, her mother will not forgive them. Our guy just laughs and mocks her confidence. He throws her to the ground and just laughs. He finds her talk about mercy very interesting. He says the elves seem different from her stories. Her soldiers are dumb, but they don't really lie. He says her tribe could have killed all the goblins, yet they didn't, and he knows it wasn't mercy. He is going to visit the elves tonight to see the truth. He tells his soldiers to divide up the dead prisoners. They can consume them to take their magical abilities. The leader looks at the princess to share his plans. Anna has no idea what is coming next. She starts begging for mercy in her desperation. She will soon be taken by the future goblin god. Playing with the princess boosts his stats and gives abilities. Back at the tribe, the matriarch is very demanding. Her subjects are tired and can't satisfy her anymore. The queen says they should have caught more goblins. The subjects look exhausted from having to please her. She asks about Anna and learns she hasn't returned. The soldier suggests they go searching for her daughter. They could also take a chance to kill more goblins. The matriarch agrees to send soldiers to help Anna. A guard arrives and says her daughter won't return. The queen is terrified because she doesn't know who it is. Then Lin Tian appears and shoots arrows at the queen. One of the matriarch's guards takes an arrow right to the forehead. Moving fast, the queen catches the arrow before it can hit her. Lin Tian arrives with his loyal soldiers in tow. He tells the queen he caught her daughter. Anna will be bearing his kids soon enough. He adds with a smirk that they are practically family now. The queen refuses to give in so easily. She grabs a sword determined to defend her people. She demands to know what he did to her daughter. The boy mocks her again with a smile. Enraged, the matriarch charges at him. She swears she is going to finish him off. He dodges her attack without even trying. He warns her that the elf tribe is completely surrounded. He says to surrender if she wants to be treated well. Suddenly, the goblin's poison hits her and paralyzes her body. Lin Tian explains that the arrow was coated in the little monster's fluid. It causes immediate paralysis in elves. He advises her to just stay still. The matriarch suddenly realizes how easily she was captured. He mentions hearing her discuss upgrade tools and stamina tonics. That was the purpose behind the goblin raids all along. Staring at her future master, she realizes he runs the pack. This is the leader Anna warned about, but she ignored it. The queen starts panicking at the screams coming from outside her treehouse. Lin Tian tells her the time for decisions is ending. He leads her to the window to prove he is not kidding. He tells her they need to discuss cooperation now. The queen is shocked by what is happening outside her chambers. Elves are screaming, begging their mother to save them. They do not want to be captured by the goblins. The matriarch grows more desperate by the second. Furious, the queen demands to know what he did to her village. The boy replies that the little monsters are no longer weaker than the elves. Back when her tribe was strong, they hunted goblins. It is only natural the monsters want revenge now. Lin Tian adds that he needs more strong goblin warriors. That is why he still needs the elves around. What happens to them afterwards depends entirely on the mother's attitude. Finally, the queen surrenders. She begs for mercy and asks that her children be spared. She just wants them to be allowed to live. The matriarch kneels before Lin Tian. The queen agrees to hold her position. She lets her elf women bear children with the goblins to strengthen their ranks. Back at the creature village, Cass Santa is devastated to see her mother has been captured. The queen apologizes to her daughter for doubting they could be defeated. The matriarch explains that only women and harmless children are left to preserve their bloodline. She notes that all the elf women have already been with the goblins. Calming her daughter, she says they must survive within the monster's tribe from now on. Lin Tian tells them he will take care of everyone with 3 meals a day, but he warns them not to blame him if they try anything and he ends them. Thinking of her tribe's well-being, the matriarch says she understands the message. She tells Lin Tian she has a request to make. She says they are all her children and asks if she can care for them. Lua appears, struggling to handle all the elf and goblin children. Lin Tian realizes the matriarch is acting this way because of the infinite maternal love elves possess. Lua calls the leader, saying she cannot take care of all those children alone. Lin Tian decides to grant the matriarch's request. He lets her care for the elf children, knowing they will bring great strength to the tribe. Our guy checks his system to see how he can get stronger. He notices his gains turned into actual attributes. He wonders if he finally hit the highest qualification level. This is definitely a major step up. He realizes the quickest way to gain power is having more children. Everything with the tribe is going exactly as he planned. He feels strong enough now to finally take down Loader for good. More elf babies appear, but they look just like tiny goblins. The elf mothers are deeply disgusted by their own children. They really want those terrifying monsters taken away immediately. Lin Tian asks Lua how many babies were born. She says there are 30 to 40 little ones so far. Suddenly, Cass Anna appears looking pale and in terrible pain. Our hero feels concerned because the princess is expecting his child. He rushes over while she screams in agony from the labor. The queen tries to comfort her daughter, begging her to keep going. The matriarch is terrified for her daughter and begs for help. Since this is her first baby, he decides to step in. He asks Lua to position the princess for the delivery. The matriarch hesitates and asks if he actually knows what to do. He responds that he certainly knows enough. Still, Cass Anna refuses to let him get anywhere near her. Lin Tian gets annoyed and tells her to quiet down. He reminds everyone that those children belong to him as well. He manages to deliver the baby and confirms the princess is fine. Lua is amazed by his skills and praises him for saving the princess. He acts like it was just a regular thing. Suddenly, they hear loud screams coming from another part of the cage. Lin Tian finds the goblins going wild over a newborn elf. She is calling for help after going through a difficult birth. Something quite unexpected is about to go down here. He pulls his dagger and walks over with the matriarch. He orders the goblins to stop what they are doing immediately. They better let the mothers recover or there will be serious consequences. He mandates extra fruit rations for all the elf women. The matriarch is impressed, saying he is not like other goblins. He tells her that good behavior ensures better treatment for everyone. He uses a simulation to plan his revenge on the humans. It shows him taking over the tribe and having strong offspring. With his larger army, he sneaks into town to find his enemies. The system gives him 3 different options to choose from. He wonders if he actually managed to track them all down. His strength is almost equal to Loader, so he is cautious. He thinks he can handle Loader easily with his current level. He decides to test the first option in the simulation. This option involves a single-person assault against all his enemies. The simulation shows him finding Loader and almost finishing the job. Suddenly, the captain's master appears out of nowhere. A human sword saint saves Loader and our boy gets finished off. There was no way to escape that powerful sword saint. He really needs to be more careful from now on. He wonders why someone that strong is in this small place. He knows he needs to ramp up his strength immediately. He sees no other way forward but to take real action. The timing is crucial for his plans. He tells Lua he has to head into human territory for a few days. She worries that he might get killed on the trip. Surprisingly, the matriarch says she can cast a stealth spell on him. Lin Tian tells the queen he is happy to hear that. He is pretty psyched about her helping out on such short notice. He admits he did not think she cared about him dying. She replies that she just does not want the goblins to lose their leader. The queen reminds him all his kids are waiting in that village. If he stays alive, then everyone stays safe. Lua tags along with her to promise she will watch the tribe while he is gone. Now he is in Brighttown. The locals are walking around normally while some soldiers patrol the area. It looks like a security detail keeping things safe. With this many guards around, Lin Tian wonders if the Sword Saint has arrived. He remembers spending the whole day finding information. He heard nothing about her visiting or arriving anywhere. It really seems strange to have this many patrols. Then he notices a bunch of people moving in the same direction. He decides to follow them quickly. He finds everyone looking at the adventurer team rankings for Bright City. Surprisingly, Loader is sitting at the very top. Lin Tian wonders if Loader actually got strong enough to earn that top spot. He really says he needs clues fast or his revenge plan will fall apart. Passing by a tavern, he hears someone offering free drinks to everyone. That voice catches his attention and he stops dead in his tracks. He recognizes him immediately. Finally, he found his target and he cannot help but smile. He walks inside and spots Loader drinking away his worries. One of the guys is bragging about how Loader and Freya saved them from a four-armed monkey. A member of the Bashi team tells him it is pathetic to brag about such a weak monster. Loader's friend gets angry and tells the guy to cut the nonsense. They start bickering like little kids. Then the tavern owner jumps in saying dragons are currently capturing livestock. He says if they are so mighty, they should go handle that. That gets Lin Tian interested while he quietly sips his drink. The guy warns that if dragons attack and the capital does not send help, everyone is doomed. The adventurers will not be able to stop the horde and darkness will follow. Loader gets confident and says his master, the Sword Saint, is coming to help fight them. Everyone in the tavern is shocked that he knows someone so powerful. They start cheering for Loader, saying he will be a hero if they win. Loader stands up and offers a round of drinks to celebrate the saint and their dragon victory. Lin Tian sees his chance to strike now that the dragons are involved and slips away. Loader sees him leaving even after offering free drinks. He asks the boy if he wants to stay for a round. Loader does not get a yes. Lin Tian says maybe they can have a drink another time. Loader thinks it is weird for someone to turn down free booze. Bright City is all dressed up for the big arrival of the Sword Saint. Right now, we see Loader walking toward his master. She is busy meditating inside a quiet temple. Her captain walks in and warns her. That evil dragon is getting much closer and will hit the city soon. After hearing that, his master stands up and grabs her weapon. The saint then asks her student how things are going with that project. Loader tells her the 10 dragon-hunting beasts are ready just like she asked. She warns him that his reputation is at stake if he messes this up. They head out of the temple and a big crowd is waiting for them. The people look totally amazed by how powerful she seems. Keeping her head in the game, she asks Loader why everyone is just standing there. She orders them to get ready for a fight immediately. Just like they thought it would, something is heading straight for Bright City. A huge flying monster shows up out of nowhere. It is holding a poor local resident in its sharp claws. Everyone starts running for their lives. The saint tells everyone that this is just a scout dragon. Once he shows up, the whole dragon horde follows right behind him. She orders Loader to take his team to the walls. Just then, a goblin runs up to Lin Tian to report that a dragon hit the city. The little guy says he saw tons of soldiers lining the walls. He asks Lin Tian what they should do about it. Lin Tian stays cool and tells them the time to attack is coming, but they have to wait for now. Like a pro strategist, our main guy and his high-level goblins get ready. He says it is finally time to enjoy the show. At that moment, a whole group of dragons starts heading straight for the glowing city. Suddenly, a beam of light blasts one of the flying beasts right in the wing. Loader and Ephraia are totally shocked to see what these weapons can actually do. The saint hits the beast and shows off how to aim the ballista. She asks her soldier if he understands how to use it now. Then all the troops get ready to fire on the dragons themselves. The monsters start falling from the sky one by one as the ballistas hit them. The warriors are cheering because these weapons are so effective. But then, something else catches everyone off guard. Something incredibly powerful is coming toward the shining city. People are falling to the ground because their heads hurt so much. Loader and Ephraia look terrified because they seem to know which monster this is. The golden and purple mother dragon finally appears. The soldiers are shocked and say their weapons will not be enough to stop her. The giant beast looked absolutely furious with her eyes locked tight on the city. The mother of dragons gets ready to launch a massive attack. She quickly lets out a huge blast of fire right against the city wall. All the soldiers with those dragon-slaying weapons start running away, saying the city is doomed. But then a powerful magic circle shows up. A voice calls out and tells them not to panic. The Sword Saint steps up and says she will take on the mother dragon herself. She orders everyone else to keep defending the city walls. In a surprise move, she creates a giant protective field using her sword magic. Turns out, the Saint's barrier does double duty. It keeps the mother dragon at bay while also blocking other beasties from reaching the wall. Up on a mountain, Lin Tian watches and waits for the right moment. He is not shocked. The Saint held off the dragon with those stats. Still, he has to respect the raw power that massive beast brought to town. Lin Tian checks the Sword Saint's stats and suddenly it all clicks. Her power explains why she barely broke a sweat stopping the dragon. He is actually relieved he does not have to fight Loader's master for his revenge. He figures the dragon is weaker than the Saint but has better endurance. Even with a good sword hit, the master is going to have a hard time finishing this fight. With the Saint distracted, Lin Tian knows his golden opportunity is here. It is time for some sweet revenge on humanity. He signals the goblins to follow the plan and sneak into the city. The capital is a mess with dragons everywhere. They have no clue a second threat is lurking nearby. Loader finds these flying beasts tough, but his teacher really prepared him to be a dragon slayer. Suddenly, a panicked resident runs by screaming about goblins attacking the city. The captain's team is busy with the dragons. Loader thinks the little monsters are too stupid to attack the capital, but right then, another villager sprints past with a pack of goblins hot on her heels. Things are getting dicey now that the little guys are here. Playing the hero, Loader tells his team to keep handling the dragons. He and Ephraia will take care of these goblins. One little monster spots the hero storming toward him and decides to beat a hasty retreat. Furious, Loader shouts at them, not to run away. That is exactly what they wanted him to think. Just like that, they walk right into the trap and get captured. Their friends try to rush in, but there are way too many goblins surrounding them. Out of nowhere, Lin Tian shows up right in the middle of the chaos. Loader spots him and yells a warning to his team. Before anyone can react, Lin Tian takes them out with his blade. Loader and the Sword Maiden are left in total shock watching their friends go down. Lin Tian strolls up to his prisoners with a smirk. He can't believe how easily they walked into his trap. Loader is furious and swears he will end every single one of those filthy goblins. Lin Tian kicks him and tells him to stop yapping and look at the bigger picture. He orders the little freaks to drag the captives to the sewers while the rest tackle the crossbowmen. While fighting, the Sword Saint hears people screaming for help back in the city. She cannot believe the goblins are actually attacking right now. The giant dragon laughs, telling her they have real trouble. Those two are going at it hard in a real slugfest. The Saint keeps her cool, mocking the Dragon Queen before landing a massive blow that puts the beast in serious trouble. The Saint has the upper hand, thinking the dragon is basically finished. She wonders if her people have cleared out the remaining enemies. Then, a huge explosion rocks the city wall. The city is a mess right now. Both the Saint and the Dragon Queen notice the commotion. The Dragon Queen thinks those little monsters have perfect timing. Since the savior is distracted, the mother dragon takes her chance and flies off. As she gets away, the beast mother warns the saint that revenge is coming. She vows to get her back once she recovers. The savior is absolutely furious that the beast escaped her. She is so mad, she swears she is heading straight to Dragon Island to wipe them all out. Once the city chaos dies down, the saint lands back on the ground. She is really annoyed to see Loader and his team standing there. They could not even manage to defeat a bunch of weak goblins. One of the fighters tells the city savior some bad news. It turns out the captain and Ifaya got captured by those small monsters. The Sword Saint looks shocked after hearing that news. She just cannot believe what she is hearing. The warrior explains that these goblins were definitely not normal monsters. Then, an ally tells the saint that the little monsters have the strength of great races. Even Loader was totally unable to beat them. The savior is furious and wants to rescue her warriors immediately. She declares she is going to the enchanted forest to destroy all those goblins, but a local resident grabs her arm and begs her to stay here. He says they will be finished if the dragons or monsters return to attack. Soon everyone starts begging the hero to stick around. They say they are citizens of the temple and the empire and need her protection. The Sword Saint finally agrees that she needs to protect them. She realizes that this is her real responsibility compared to the other heroes. Knowing Loader is too weak to face these monsters, the Sword Saintess decides to seek help from the royal family. Far away, a shout races through the goblin camp. Their leader has returned, and Ifreya and Loader are being marched in behind him. The camp crowds around the prisoners, stunned to see two humans alive. Ifreya can barely stand, while Loader scans every face for an opening. There is none. Goblins line the path, cheering as though a trophy parade has just arrived. The captives are forced to their knees before Lintien's fighters. When Loader tries to speak, the goblin berserker shuts him down with a single roar. Inside this camp, their heroic titles mean absolutely nothing. Then Loader notices the elves. There are far too many prisoners for an ordinary goblin tribe, and that realization chills him. If these creatures could hold so many captives, a hero-tier goblin might be commanding them from the shadows. His only hope is Ifreya. Loader quietly asks whether her strength has returned, but she admits the toxin is unusually powerful. Her sacred constitution is resisting it, yet clearing the poison will still take time they may not have. Lintien has already noticed. Watching from nearby, he realizes the poison is fading much faster than expected. Instead of looking worried, he seems impressed. Ifreya's recovery is exceptional, and that makes her even more valuable to him. Ifreya forces herself upright and demands to know how this goblin knows her name. She also asks what he intends to do with them. Lintien offers no reassuring answer. He simply closes the distance, enjoying how quickly her confidence begins to crack. His silence is more threatening than any speech. Lintien turns her question back on her, as if choosing their punishment were a game. Loader understands first, this is not an interrogation. It is revenge, and Lintien wants them afraid. When Lintien begins tormenting Ifreya, Loader lunges forward and shouts for him to stop. He cannot reach her, but his outburst draws every goblin's attention. For one brief second, his fear is replaced by furious defiance. The goblin berserker answers that defiance immediately, pinning Loader down and warning him never to raise his voice at the boss. Loader is outmatched, injured, and surrounded, but he still searches for the one threat these goblins might respect. He tells Lintien that capturing members of the hero's party will bring terrible consequences. The Sword Saintess, he warns, could erase the entire tribe with one strike. It is a desperate bluff, but it finally earns Lintien's full attention. Lintien is not frightened. He calmly says the Saintess is prey as well. Just pray for another day. He has already covered their trail, so even if she starts searching now, she will never find this settlement in time. With that settled, Lintien orders the Goblin Berserker to lead every second-generation warrior into the forest. They are to hunt non-stop and return with as many monster bodies as possible. The tribe's next evolution has just become an emergency. Lintien knows the humans will retaliate after such a bold attack. His answer is not retreat, but acceleration. Before knights or heroes discover the camp, he intends to push his entire tribe through another leap in power. Then he turns back to Loader with a simple rule. Lin Tian asks, and Loader answers. Any hesitation will be treated as resistance. After what Loader has already seen, the threat behind those words needs no explanation. His first question cuts straight through Loader's righteous image. Does the hero's party secretly capture goblins and torment them for information? Loader recoils and calls the accusation nonsense, but his panic tells Lin Tian that he has found a nerve. Loader stalls, hoping outrage will replace an answer. Lin Tian does not give him that luxury. He watches the silence stretch, then declares that the response came too slowly. The interrogation has moved from questions to consequences. Lin Tian makes good on his warning, leaving Loader badly injured without dwelling on the violence. The camp falls quiet around his scream. This is calculated cruelty. Lin Tian wants every prisoner to understand that delay will only make things worse. Even through the pain, Loader insists that everything the party did was meant to protect humanity. To him, killing monsters is sacred duty. Lin Tian listens without sympathy because he has already seen what that noble language is used to hide. Lin Tian laughs at the words humanity and duty. In his eyes, the hero's party is less interested in saving people than in protecting its own legend. The heroes call themselves righteous, but their record tells a darker story. He reminds Loader that the party has killed human captives alongside monsters whenever rescue proved inconvenient. Mission after mission, innocent lives became acceptable losses. Lin Tian asks the question Loader cannot answer. How much blood built the hero's spotless reputation? Loader and Freya freeze. A goblin should not know those buried secrets, yet Lin Tian speaks as if he witnessed every one of them. Their final defense, that he is merely a mindless monster, collapses in front of them. Lin Tian ends the debate with brutal honesty. Unlike the heroes, he says, he does not hide behind righteousness. He knows exactly what kind of monster he is. And now, he intends to make both captives remember that lesson. Loader realizes Freya is the next target and begs Lin Tian to leave her alone. Freya calls to her captain for help, but he cannot reach her. Their roles have reversed completely. The rescuers are now the ones pleading to be rescued. The goblin berserker holds Loader down while Lin Tian turns his cruelty toward Freya. Loader can only hear her distress. His strength, rank, and promises mean nothing as he is forced to face how completely he has lost control. Lin Tian tells Freya he is only returning the contempt she once showed him. To him, this is revenge delivered word for word. Worse, he makes it clear that the suffering is not ending here. This is only the beginning. Then Lin Tian deliberately turns to Loader, making the captain witness what his helplessness has caused. It is not strategy anymore. It is punishment designed to break both prisoners at once, with fear doing as much damage as force. The camp closes in, and Loader's final protest becomes a scream. When the moment passes, his face is shattered by the realization that he cannot protect Freya. For the first time, the hero's party looks completely powerless. By the next guard change, the camp has returned to routine with disturbing ease. Goblins trade watch duties beside the prisoners, repeating Lin Tian's order that Freya must be kept alive. Whatever he is planning, her survival is essential. The guards treat the command like any other job, laughing as they take their positions. That casual reaction is almost worse than open rage. To them, the captive's suffering has already become part of ordinary camp life. Nearby, Loader desperately urges Freya to hold on. Her voice is barely audible, yet she tells him she is fine. Neither of them believes it. Still, that fragile answer is enough to keep Loader from giving up completely. When the prisoners whisper, a guard immediately silences them. The captured elves watch from a distance, reading the scene very differently. Lin Tian's fury is focused on the humans, and they begin to suspect this grudge existed long before tonight. One young elf quietly tells her mother that the humans have it worse. The elves are still captives, but they have shelter and fruit. It is a grim comparison, revealing how quickly people begin measuring mercy when freedom is no longer an option. Another elf remembers Lin Tian speaking about revenge. He always keeps his promises, she says, and he never forgets a grudge. To the prisoners, that makes him terrifying. To some elves, it also makes him strangely unlike any goblin they have known. As the camp settles, one elf mother finds herself watching Lin Tian. She has seen his cruelty toward enemies, but also his discipline and protection of the tribe. That contradiction makes him difficult to understand and impossible for her daughter not to notice. The daughter teasingly suggests her mother has started liking him. The embarrassed reaction answers more than words could. Even among captives, Lin Tian's growing authority is reshaping loyalties in ways no one expected. The awkward moment ends when a messenger rushes in. The second-generation goblins have returned from their hunt far earlier than expected. Lin Tian's expression changes at once. Early returns usually mean either exceptional success or unexpected danger. The hunters march into camp carrying monster carcasses and the confidence of seasoned warriors. They no longer resemble the weak goblins Lin Tian first commanded. Every successful hunt has sharpened them, and now the results are visible at a glance. Lin Tian checks one warrior's status, level 33, overall combat power around 500, and a full set of evolved skills. The second generation has crossed into high-tier territory, with some fighters already approaching Lin Tian's own raw statistics. Yet their early return was not a celebration. The hunters explain that they wiped out every monster close to camp, forcing them deeper into the western forest. There, the trail changed from ordinary hunting grounds to something far more dangerous. They found high-tier goblins destroying smaller tribes. The attackers moved with purpose, leaving survivors in camps marked by the same faction. Lin Tian asks one question: which tribe is bold enough to hunt its own kind? The answer is Bloodfang. Every one of its fighters is high-tier, and every ruined settlement bears the Bloodfang mark. Instead of recoiling, Lin Tian becomes interested. A powerful rival tribe is also a source of powerful new blood. Lin Tian immediately sees the opportunity. If they capture Bloodfang's leader alive, his strength could help create a stronger third generation. With human extermination forces certain to come, the tribe needs every advantage it can manufacture. Loader bursts into bitter laughter. No matter how strong these goblins become, he insists, trained knights will still crush them. The boast sounds confident, but after everything he has seen, it feels less like prophecy and more like desperation. That voice reminds Lin Tian that Loader is still there. The captain has been so quiet that Lin Tian nearly forgot him. Unfortunately for Loader, being noticed again means becoming the center of the camp's attention. Lin Tian announces that one human has not yet been brought into line. Goblins begin gathering around Loader, and his anger turns to panic. He demands to know what they plan to do, but the answer arrives without words. Several hours pass under a campaign of degrading abuse. When Loader is finally left alone, his certainty, pride, and belief that rank could protect him have collapsed. Only exhaustion remains, and Lin Tian has made his point without asking another question. That evening, the tribe gathers around a fire to feast. When an elf asks whether Bloodfang is their next target, Lin Tian confirms it. They will not merely attack, they will capture the enemy leader and prove which tribe is strongest. Before launching the campaign, Lin Tian gives his growing people something more important than a battle plan: a name. From this night forward, they will be the Tian Quang tribe. The words turn a collection of survivors into a single force. The warriors erupt in approval, pounding the ground and praising their boss. Lin Tian watches the celebration with satisfaction. A named tribe has an identity, and an identity gives every goblin something larger than fear to fight for. Soon the entire camp is chanting Tian Quang. The name rolls through the trees like a declaration of war, loud enough to bury the memory of every weaker tribe Bloodfang has already erased. One elf voices the obvious concern. Bloodfang has destroyed many tribes, so taking its leader alive may be impossible. Lin Tian answers with complete confidence. He is not relying on numbers alone, he has one unused trump card. Lin Tian offers no details, only a calm assurance that his plan includes a trump card he has not used yet. The others can only trust him. By morning, he is already moving alone toward Bloodfang territory. Hidden high in the trees, Lin Tian finds a perfect vantage point over the western forest. He studies the paths, watch posts, and gathering areas below. Before ordering an attack, he wants the enemy's real strength, not campfire rumors. The Bloodfang settlement is crowded with high-tier goblins exactly as reported. Even so, Lin Tian judges the ordinary fighters manageable. The real question is why every one of them looks nervous inside its own camp. Then the answer appears. Bloodfang goblins shrink back as their leader approaches, revealing a tribe ruled by terror rather than loyalty. Lin Tian watches carefully. Fear can make an army obedient, but it can also make it easy to fracture. The leader is a level 50, hero-class Warhammer goblin with roughly 900 combat power and a massive bone hammer. He is stronger than any single Tianquang warrior, but not beyond Lin Tian's calculations. The chapter finally reveals Lin Tian's trump card. Away from the battlefield, prolonged abuse has left Ephraia traumatized and vulnerable, and he is conditioning her to obey him. Her altered behavior is not trust. It is the result of systematic coercion. Back above the Bloodfang camp, Lin Tian measures the numbers. A dozen evolved warriors should be enough to overpower a target with 900 combat power. Defeating the leader is possible. Capturing him alive is the difficult part. The Warhammer goblin's enormous body creates another problem. Lin Tian's paralytic poison worked on humans, but a creature this large may barely feel it. Charging in without a restraint plan would turn a calculated raid into chaos. Then Lin Tian remembers the spell Ephraia once used against him, Holy Light Prison. A magical barrier could hold Bloodfang's leader without killing him. The idea is perfect if Lin Tian can make Ephraia cast it on command. With a new plan forming, he leaves the lookout and returns to the Tianquang camp. The next battle will depend on a captive who once tried to imprison him. Now he intends to reverse that power completely. A guard meets Lin Tian with alarming news. His instructions were followed, but Ephraia is barely holding on. Lin Tian praises the work without emotion, then walks toward her as though checking the condition of a damaged tool. Ephraia no longer asks for rescue. She begs for death, convinced it might atone for her sins. The proud woman who once condemned goblins now sounds completely broken, and that is exactly the state Lin Tian planned to create. Lin Tian approaches with a soft greeting, but Ephraia recoils the moment she recognizes him. His calm voice only deepens her panic. Every step closer reminds her that he controls the camp, the guards, and whether her suffering ends. She calls him a demon and says the pain is driving her mad. Lin Tian does not deny it. He waits until terror has emptied out every other thought, then prepares to offer relief with a price attached. At last, Lin Tian tells Ephraia that her punishment is over. The sudden change shocks her more than another threat would. She asks if he means it, desperate to believe even the smallest promise of safety. He says he keeps his word, but only if she chooses where to place her faith. It is not a genuine choice. Lin Tian has created the fear, then positioned himself as the only person who can make it stop. Lin Tian frames the ultimatum in cruelly simple terms. Ephraia can keep trusting the god she served, or surrender her trust to him and be spared further torment. The trap is complete. Reject him and the torment returns. Obey, and it finally stops. With no safe option left, Ephraia gives the answer he wants. Lin Tian treats the coerced response as obedience and begins rewriting her identity around him. Her words sound compliant, but the scene makes clear how violently that compliance was manufactured. Lin Tian removes her restraints and orders her to follow. They walk toward the camp's stone pool, while Ephraia responds with exaggerated gratitude. Her sudden devotion is not recovery. It is the survival behavior he has trained into her. At the water, she promises to give him everything. Lin Tian hears exactly what he wanted, unquestioning dependence. But he did not bring her here for affection. He needs the magic buried beneath her shattered memories. Lin Tian asks Ephraia to demonstrate Holy Light Prison, the spell that once trapped him. Instead of casting it, she stares back in confusion. Even the name seems unfamiliar, suggesting the trauma has disrupted more than her judgment. For the first time, Lin Tian's plan wobbles. If Ephraia cannot remember her own magic, his perfect restraint strategy is useless. He presses her again, searching for any spark of recognition. The spark comes from a magic book taken from the elves. When Lin Tian shows her the spell, the pattern begins to return. Ephraia studies the page, repeats the name, and reaches for the power she thought she had lost. Golden energy gathers around her feet and rises in curling lines. The frightened captive disappears behind the instincts of a trained caster. For a moment, Ifreya is not reacting to Lin Tian. She is simply remembering how to use her magic. The spell erupts into a towering cage of holy light, solid enough to seal a powerful target in place. Lin Tian's gamble has worked. Bloodfang's leader can be captured without relying on poison or a fatal blow. Lin Tian praises Ifreya while studying the glowing prison. Behind them, the camp continues as usual, unaware that the next raid has just become far more dangerous. He now has warriors, a target, and the tool needed to take that target alive. From inside his cage, Loder sees Ifreya walking beside Lin Tian and assumes she has recovered. He immediately orders her to kill the goblin and heal him. Even now, he speaks like a captain expecting instant obedience. Lin Tian calmly tells Loder to look again. Ifreya is standing at his side, not preparing an attack. He claims she submitted willingly, turning the visible result of coercion into another weapon against her captain. Loder refuses to accept it. The daughter of the Holy Order's leader could never serve a goblin, he insists. His outrage reveals how much he values her symbol and status, even while missing the trauma in front of him. Lin Tian asks Ifreya to answer for herself. She repeats that everything was her own choice and addresses him as master. Loder hears consent, but the truth is conditioning. That gap is exactly what makes the moment so devastating. The response leaves Loder speechless. His last hope was that Ifreya would return as his rescuer. Instead, she has become part of Lin Tian's plan, and he has no idea how to reach the person beneath that obedience. Cornered, Loder falls back on threats. Lin Tian's actions, he says, will bring about the extinction of every goblin. In his fury, he declares that monsters exist only to be killed by humans. He promises the Holy Church will erase the tribe completely, but the more Loder shouts, the less powerful he sounds. Behind bars, stripped of rank and control, his certainty has become the final shield around his fear. Lin Tian answers with an ultimatum for Loder and every remaining captive. There are only two paths now: submit to his rule or die where they stand. Chapter 13 closes on that choice, and a war with Bloodfang waiting just beyond it. Then Loder lets one dangerous secret slip. Ifreya is not merely a church mage. She is the daughter of the Holy Order's leader. Lin Tian immediately realizes his prisoner may be worth far more than he imagined. Lin thanks Loder for the information in the coldest way possible, ordering the guards to deny him rest. Then he takes Ifreya and turns his attention back to the next conquest waiting in the forest. With Ifreya now walking at his side, Lin leaves the camp without hesitation. His target is the Bloodfang tribe, and by the confidence in his smile, this is not an expedition. It is a takeover. Meanwhile, Bloodfang's settlement is already preparing for war. Its enormous Warhammer chief surveys his fighters from the shadows, unaware that the enemy he should fear has already crossed the tribe's boundary. The chief announces a raid against the southern tribes. He plans to crush every rival, seize their territory, and capture any elves they find. Bloodfang believes another easy slaughter is about to begin. The warriors roar their approval, drunk on the chief's reputation and past victories. None of them notices how quickly the mood changes when a scout forces his way through the crowd with unexpected news. A lone goblin has walked straight into their camp and demanded to see the chief. Bloodfang expects an idiot or a spy. Instead, Lin Tian steps forward alone, perfectly calm among hundreds of enemies. The Warhammer chief looks him over and laughs. To him, Lin appears to be nothing more than a low-level goblin who has wandered into the wrong settlement and volunteered for death. But Lin addresses him as an equal. He knows Bloodfang's leader is a hero-class goblin with intelligence close to a human's, and he has not come to challenge that strength blindly. He has come to negotiate. Surrounded by hostile warriors, Lin casually explains that he is no mutant, only a goblin clever enough to think beyond hunger and fear. That answer unsettles Bloodfang more than any threat could. Then Lin drops the polite act. As leader of the southern tribe, he wants Bloodfang's chief alive, while every other warrior receives only two choices: submit to his rule or die where they stand. The answer is immediate. Bloodfang refuses to kneel, and Lin's demand becomes a death sentence in their eyes. Yet the intruder never steps back, even as killing intent closes around him. Lin singles out the chief for a different fate. His hero-class blood is too valuable to waste, and Lin intends to take him back alive. The chief hears only an unforgivable insult and attacks. The giant's hand closes around Lin with crushing force. Bloodfang's warriors cheer, convinced the strange goblin's rebellion has ended before it could begin. For a moment, Lin appears completely trapped. The chief boasts that once Lin is dead, every elf and human in the southern camp will belong to Bloodfang. His followers surge forward on command. Lin simply watches them come and decides the conversation is over. Lin moves first. A crimson arc tears across the battlefield before the chief can react, proving that the small goblin in his grasp is faster and far more dangerous than anyone in Bloodfang imagined. One strike becomes a storm of red slashes. The Warhammer chief roars as Lin cuts through his defenses, carefully controlling every blow. Killing the giant would be easy. Capturing him alive is the real challenge. The massive chief crashes to the ground, stunned and bleeding but still alive. Bloodfang's warriors stare in disbelief. Their hero has fallen to a goblin they dismissed as weak, and now panic turns into fury. Seeing their leader fall, the tribe charges together, screaming for revenge. They believe numbers can finish what the chief could not, surrounding Lin from every direction and leaving him no visible escape. Lin does not retreat. He raises one hand and calls for the force Bloodfang never saw enter the camp. The gesture is small, but it turns their desperate attack into a perfectly prepared ambush. One attacker suddenly collapses without hearing a footstep or seeing a blade. Then another falls. Bloodfang's warriors freeze as invisible killers move through their formation with terrifying precision. The hidden army finally reveals itself. Tianquang warriors had entered under invisibility and silent step while every eye remained fixed on Lin. The negotiation was never a gamble. It was the distraction. At Lin's command, the concealed force attacks from inside the settlement. Bloodfang's formation disintegrates instantly as armored warriors appear between them, striking before the defenders can even raise their weapons. Bloodfang suddenly understands the scale of the trap. These are not ordinary goblins but evolved fighters moving as a disciplined unit. The tribe that preyed on weaker clans is now being erased in minutes. When the dust begins to settle, Lin walks through a field of defeated warriors without a scratch. The surviving chief realizes the truth. Every word Lin spoke was designed to keep Bloodfang looking in the wrong direction. The chief pieces it together too late. While he enjoyed humiliating a lone intruder, Lin's entire army slipped into position. Bloodfang did not lose because it was weaker. It lost because its leader was predictable. Abandoning his fallen tribe, the Warhammer chief turns to flee. He still believes his raw power can carry him through the encirclement, and he swears he will return one day to kill Lin himself. The giant charges for the only opening he can see. Lin does not chase him. He merely speaks one name, Ifreya, and the chief discovers that the final escape route was part of the plan as well. Golden pillars explode from the ground and lock around the Warhammer chief. Ifreya's holy light prison closes before he can take another step, trapping 900 points of combat power inside a brilliant prison. The chief cannot understand what he is seeing. A goblin should not command holy magic. He has no idea that Lin never needed to cast the spell. He only needed a broken priestess willing to cast it for him. Ifreya hurries back to Lin and kneels at his side, eager for his approval. Her spell has grown even stronger under Lin's control, making her far more useful than either prisoner expected. Lin praises her obedience and sends her back to camp with the promise of a reward. Her conditioned delight reveals how completely his cruelty has turned a former holy prodigy into a weapon he can command. The Bloodfang chief wakes bound in golden chains, cursing the goblin who outsmarted him. Lin only smiles. He never wanted another corpse. He wanted a living hero-class bloodline to strengthen the next generation of his tribe. Back at the Tianquang camp, the victory has already changed the balance of the forest. What began as a desperate goblin settlement now stands as a fortified tribe with territory, prisoners, and an army. The Bloodfang chief lies chained among his defeated warriors. Subduing him cost Lin more effort than expected, but the threat is finally contained. With the western rival crushed, Lin can focus on the enemy beyond the forest. From behind the bars, Loder watches in disbelief. Lin has not merely defeated a hero-class goblin, he captured the giant alive, proving that the tribe's intelligence is becoming even more dangerous than its strength. Lin wastes no time celebrating. He orders Goblin Moon to supervise the captive and manage the next breeding project, turning Bloodfang's greatest warrior into another source of power for Tian Kuang's future generation. He also leaves Ephraia under Goblin Moon's watch with a warning to obey every instruction. The message is unmistakable. Lin is leaving the camp, but the system he built will continue working without him. Before leaving, Lin asks Liao to help him dress for a meeting. She is startled by the word he uses. After everything that has happened, who could a goblin like Lin possibly call a friend? Lin answers with a knowing smile, not merely a friend, but a very important one. The secrecy makes his next move impossible to predict, even for the elves who have watched every stage of his rise. His destination is chosen out of necessity. Loader's arrogance guarantees that human reinforcements will reach Bright Town soon. Tian Kuang can survive ordinary nights, but meeting the Sword Saints directly would mean certain death. The hero seed goblins still need time to mature, so Lin must buy that time with an ally powerful enough to distract humanity's strongest fighter. His choice is audacious, the mother of the purple gold dragon. Dragon Island lies nearly 100 kilometers offshore, far beyond anything Lin can reach on foot. Instead of searching for a boat, he chooses the fastest transportation available. He plans to summon a dragon to him. Lin drags a freshly killed beast onto the shore and lets the scent of blood spread across the coast. It is crude bait, but flying dragons cannot ignore a meal this large or this easy. The bait works immediately. A hunting dragon dives from the sky and seizes the carcass in its claws, never noticing that Lin has hidden himself among the ropes and dead weight beneath it. Lin's gamble succeeds. The dragon lifts the entire bundle from the beach and carries it out over the sea. Without fighting a single monster, he has turned the island's own hunter into his transport. High above the water, Lin remains hidden while the dragon crosses the distance in minutes. Below him, the isolated island comes into view, a natural fortress filled with creatures strong enough to challenge humanity. At last, the dragon descends into the island's interior with the bait still in its claws. Lin's plan has delivered him exactly where he wanted to go, but escaping will be far harder. The dragon drops its catch into a dark feeding pit piled with old skeletons. Hidden inside the carcass, Lin survives the fall and waits until the hunter leaves before crawling into the open. Lin studies the bones and confirms his suspicion. These dragons are not bringing food back for themselves. Every hunt feeds something much larger, something important enough to remain protected deep inside the island. Before he can search any farther, a voice rolls through the cavern. The dragon mother has already noticed a strange scent mixed into her meal, and one enormous golden eye opens behind Lin. The colossal purple gold dragon recognizes him. Lin is the goblin leader who attacked Bright Town during her raid, the tiny creature who used the chaos to escape. Now he has entered her territory without permission. Then a second dragon closes in, and the mother asks why she should not eat him on the spot. Lin is surrounded by jaws large enough to end the meeting with a single bite. Lin does not draw a weapon. He raises an empty hand and says he came to discuss cooperation. In a cavern full of dragons, the calmness of that answer is strange enough to keep him alive. The proposal is so absurd that it amuses the dragon mother. A mere goblin has crossed the sea to negotiate with her as though they were equal rulers, and her curiosity begins to outweigh her hunger. She shifts into a humanoid form and agrees to listen, remembering that Lin's attack on Bright Town once helped her escape the Sword Saintess. That small debt is the only protection standing between him and death. Even in human form, the dragon mother keeps the threat clear. If Lin cannot satisfy her, she may still eat him. The negotiation begins with his life serving as the price of failure. Lin answers with the one motive they share. Both of them want revenge on the Sword Saintess, and neither can defeat her carelessly. If they combine their pressure, Bright Town will become her greatest weakness. The dragon mother nearly laughs when she understands his target. To her, goblins are disposable creatures, while the Sword Saintess is a monster even dragons fear. Lin's ambition sounds completely insane. But amusement becomes curiosity. Lin has already survived encounters that should have killed him, captured a hero-class chief, and reached her hidden island alone. She leans closer and asks what his plan actually is. Lin's first request is simple: send dragon soldiers to harass Bright Town at irregular intervals. The attacks do not need to win. They only need to keep the Sword Saintess anxious, exhausted, and permanently tied to the town. She immediately asks what Lin will contribute. Dragons can pressure the town, but a few goblins cannot injure the woman who defeated her. If he wants an alliance, he needs more than confidence. Pressed for the real plan, Lin refuses to be intimidated. He has never expected his tribe to overpower the Sword Saintess in a fair battle. Fairness is precisely the mistake he intends to avoid. Lin explains that direct confrontation will never work. Instead, they will attack her mind, forcing her to defend Bright Town again and again, breaking her certainty and killing her spirit before they ever challenge her blade. The Dragon Mother bursts into laughter because the strategy serves her perfectly. Goblins will take the greatest risks. Her own forces remain protected, and the Sword Saintess can be weakened without another costly dragon assault. Outwardly, she agrees that the scheme is clever. Inwardly, she sees Lin's tribe as useful tools she can sacrifice from a distance. Both leaders accept the alliance while quietly believing they are exploiting the other. Then her tone changes. The more closely she studies Lin, the more she enjoys his nerve and intelligence. Their deal is sealed, but the Dragon Mother decides that simple cooperation is not enough. With the alliance settled, the Dragon Mother offers Lin a personal reward for entertaining her. He came to secure time against the Sword Saintess. Instead, he may have attracted the attention of something even more dangerous. The encounter with the Dragon Mother leaves Lin exhausted. As she coolly dismisses his strength, he realizes that her volatile state makes her even more overwhelming than her fearsome reputation suggested. The Dragon Mother then offers another reward and gestures toward her brood. Lin must choose one dragon to take home, turning a tense encounter into a prize that could transform his tribe's future. Back in the Tianquang village, the captive knight Loder remains tied to a post. Every passing minute deepens his disbelief. The royal knights should have found him already, so why has no rescue party appeared? Waiting is no longer enough. Loder studies the crude village and begins planning an escape, convinced that ordinary goblins cannot possibly keep a trained knight imprisoned once he finds the right opening. His confidence returns when he notices the height advantage around him. Goblins are short, he reasons, so reaching higher ground might put their clumsy guards at a permanent disadvantage and open his path to freedom. Then a vast shadow crosses the sky. Loder looks up and sees a dragon descending toward the settlement, instantly replacing his escape fantasy with panic as even the goblin sentries scramble beneath it. The village guards spot the incoming dragon and raise the alarm. Weapons come up, voices overlap, and the entire settlement braces for disaster, unaware that the creature is carrying someone they know. As the dragon circles lower, goblins and human captives stare skyward together. Someone finally notices a rider on its back, and fear gives way to astonishment when the familiar silhouette becomes clear. The crimson beast crashes down in a storm of dust and wind, towering over the huts. Yet instead of attacking, it kneels, revealing Lin Tian seated calmly above the stunned crowd. Lin slides down and announces his return as if riding on a dragon were perfectly ordinary. The clan erupts with relief, while Loder can only stare at the goblin leader who commands such a monster. After dismounting, Lin gently pats the dragon and tells it to rest without wandering. The simple command proves something terrifying to every witness. This legendary creature is not a threat to him, but an obedient ally. Cheers sweep through the village as the clan welcomes its leader home. Loder hears them call the dragon rider a goblin and realizes the enemy he underestimated has influence far beyond anything his training prepared him for. Still bound and humiliated, Loder clings to one final hope. If the Royal Knight Order arrives soon, he tells himself, their overwhelming strength will erase this nightmare and restore the natural order. Far away, Bright Square is already stirring. Armored boots cross the stone in disciplined formation as the kingdom gathers an elite response force, proving Loder's disappearance has not gone unnoticed. The royal knights assemble beneath their banners, polished armor hiding grim expressions. This is no routine patrol. The order is preparing to march into goblin territory under its most dangerous commander. Kneeling knights report to the Sword Saintess, but she dismisses ceremony immediately. Time is running out, and every wasted second gives the goblins more opportunity to move or kill their prisoner. Her command is direct: prepare the rescue plan now. The knights answer without hesitation, unaware that the captive they intend to recover has already become a source of information for Lin Tian. Lin begins another life simulation, this time focused on nurturing the tribe's third generation. The system reviews his recent victories, from the ambush at Bright Town to the training of Yue and Ifreya, then turns them into a new set of possible futures. 3 choices appear, each projecting a different route through the coming month. Lin compares the possible levels and risks, searching the cold numbers for clues about what the sword scientist will do next. One option reveals something crucial. If he skips ahead a month, no immediate ambush is recorded. Lin seizes that hidden advantage, choosing time acceleration so his tribe can grow before the knights arrive. Time surges forward. Lin drives himself through the enchanted forest, but its weaker monsters soon stop providing meaningful experience, forcing him to confront the limits of his current hunting ground. The simulation ends with a modest score of 20, yet it still awards 20 life points. More importantly, an entire month has passed, giving Lin a safer window to strengthen himself and reorganize the clan. Lin awakens 1 month later at level 50. His new status shows 850 vitality, 270 strength, and 300 defense, pushing his overall combat power to 1,000. The numbers are impressive, but Lin is not satisfied. His growth has slowed sharply, and he understands that ordinary experience alone will never prepare him for an enemy as overwhelming as the Sword Saintess. A female goblin brings devastating news. Many recent births ended in stillbirth. Lin's celebration ends at once because the clan's rabid evolution now appears to carry a terrible biological price. Only a few infants survive, and even they are dangerously weak. Lin studies the adults' shaken faces instead of the bodies, asking whether some mistake in the tribe's evolution caused the tragedy. The answer is worse than he feared. Of the entire generation, only 3 children remain alive, and their condition is fragile. Behind them, Loder suddenly straightens as if he recognizes the pattern. Loder laughs at the goblins' confusion, mocking their dream of filling the world with powerful offspring. His cruel amusement tells Lin that the knight knows exactly why the births failed. Pressed for an explanation, Loder reveals the rule of elite bloodlines. The stronger a species becomes, the harder it is for its children to survive. Power has improved the clan, but it has also made reproduction brutally costly. Loder sneers that Lin's grand plan has collapsed. Lin merely thanks him, calm enough to be frightening. The prisoner has just supplied a vital weakness, and his usefulness is rapidly running out. Lin hands Loder over to the clan's berserker with one strict order: do not kill him. The knight may still have useful information, but Lin no longer needs to treat him gently. As a massive hand reaches for him, Loder's composure finally breaks. He curses Lin and swears revenge, but the threat sounds hollow now that the arrogant knight understands who truly controls the village. Alone again, Lin confronts the real crisis. There is not enough time to raise a new generation of hero-class goblins, and his current odds against the Sword Saintess remain painfully low. He searches for another path to evolution when the Crimson Dragon begins acting strangely. Its restless movement draws Lin closer, and the powerful creature may be pointing toward an answer the system never offered. Lin tries to calm the dragon, then realizes its behavior is instinctive. It is entering a transformation cycle and taking demi-human form. The discovery suggests dragon blood may unlock the breakthrough his tribe desperately needs. The dragon completes her transformation as Lin watches in alarm. He finally understands why her mother left her behind. This unusual change may hold the key to his next evolution into the future of the entire tribe. When the system returns, Lin has achieved another promotion. His vitality leaps to 1,500, strength to 520, and defense to 1,200, confirming that dragon power has transformed him into something far beyond an ordinary goblin. Leaning against a tree, Lin processes the impossible result. A single infusion of dragon blood has pushed him into the hero class, proving that the Crimson lineage can bypass the reproductive limits threatening his tribe. The transformed dragon approaches again, but Lin stops her. Remembering that dragon blood triggered his evolution, he sets aside everything else and turns his attention to a far more urgent use for that power. Lin postpones everything else and gives a clear mission: share dragon blood with the clan, then return. If the same reaction spreads, every surviving goblin could leap into the hero class overnight. She rushes toward the waiting goblins, who scatter in alarm at her sudden arrival. They do not yet realize that the dragon blood she carries may grant them the greatest evolutionary advantage their species has ever received. That night, news races to the firelit village. Everyone who received dragon blood has evolved. The impossible experiment worked, turning Lin's desperate shortcut into a tribal transformation on an unprecedented scale. The newly transformed goblins celebrate their larger bodies and surging power. Even more astonishing, they sense room for further growth, meaning dragon blood did not merely strengthen them, it opened an entirely new path. Mounted on the resting dragon, Lin surveys his evolved clan with satisfaction. Legendary blood has made every warrior hero class, a result no human kingdom would ever expect from a village it still considers primitive. Yet class alone does not guarantee victory. Lin calculates that the tribe's overall strength remains too low, so he opens the system shop in search of equipment capable of multiplying their new potential. His goal is bigger than survival. He wants enough power and prestige to reshape the entire region. With 180 credits available, the shop finally offers tools worthy of that ambition. The first option is the elemental crossbow, a light-ranged weapon that absorbs water, fire, wind, thunder, or poison before releasing the stored force as a devastating elemental bolt. The second item is Stranger, Blade Stealer, a technique that lets its user catch an enemy's weapon bare-handed up to 3 times. Costing 80 credits, it could turn a desperate defense into an instant disarmament. Lin chooses both without hesitation. The exchange succeeds, consuming most of his saved credits, but giving him a flexible ranged weapon and a dangerous counter for the armed knights closing on his territory. Of course, every new weapon needs a test. Lin calmly aims the elemental crossbow at Loader, deciding that the captive knight is the perfect subject for measuring its power without risking a clan member. Loader sees the loaded crossbow and finally understands what Lin intends. His earlier arrogance disappears as energy gathers at the weapon, making him the first human scheduled to experience the tribe's new arsenal. Elsewhere in the Enchanted Forest, a human adventuring party complains that low-class monsters are painfully boring. Their confidence comes from countless easy victories, and they expect the goblin hunt to be just as simple. Their captain explains the real strategy. The Dragon Mother is occupying the Sword Saints, leaving the forest exposed. While those powers distract each other, his team can seize glory by eliminating the goblins. He orders everyone to stay sharp and not waste this rare opportunity. The warning sounds responsible, but his hungry expression reveals the truth. He already imagines returning as the celebrated killer of a goblin hero. A subordinate suddenly spots movement ahead. The party stops joking and forms up, certain that whatever waits in the darkness will become another quick trophy on their march toward the village. A giant spider bursts from the undergrowth, enormous enough to freeze the group for a heartbeat. Its sudden appearance feels dangerous, yet the seasoned adventurers quickly recognize it as only a third-class monster. The witch recoils and admits she hates spiders, but fear never has time to spread. Her archer companion raises a bow, confident that one clean shot will erase the oversized creature. A bright projectile tears through the spider before it can attack. The archer dismisses the creature as a mere bug, reinforcing the party's belief that nothing in this forest can truly threaten them. The strike lands, but the captain does not celebrate. Something else is moving beyond the dying monster, and the silence behind it feels far more deliberate than any animal attack. A towering goblin emerges from the darkness. The captain identifies its hero-class aura and assumes it must be the tribe's leader, never considering that Lin now commands an entire generation of warriors like this. Instead of retreating, the adventurers grin. They believe fate has delivered the famous goblin directly into their hands, and each one imagines claiming the glory before the first real blow has even been exchanged. The adventurers launch their crusade with complete confidence, spreading across the moonlit forest as their captain calls the charge. To them, the lone hero-class goblin is simply the final obstacle before fame. The captain orders the archers to cover him and surges ahead alone. His companions barely hurry, trusting that his armor and spear will end the encounter before their support is even needed. A teammate asks for credit after watching the captain slaughter ordinary goblins along the road. He refuses, declaring that this will be his first hero-class kill and therefore his personal prize. Certain the battle is already decided, the captain promises to finish the goblin in one strike. He lowers his spear, gathers swirling energy, and charges before anyone can question the reckless plan. His ultimate technique erupts into a raging vortex, driving the spear forward with enough force to shred the forest floor. The captain screams for the goblin to die, expecting a spectacular instant victory. The spear never reaches its target. One massive hand closes around the weapon and stops the vortex cold, leaving the captain staring at an impossible sight. The goblin has caught his strongest attack bare-handed. Panic replaces pride. The captain jerks backward and orders the tank to raise his shield, finally realizing that the supposed easy target has more raw power than their entire formation anticipated. Even behind the shield, the party can barely absorb the goblin's brute force. The reinforced barrier begins to crack, and the captain desperately changes tactics before a single punch tears their defense apart. The archer calls for distance, insisting that a power fighter cannot reach them all. She draws confidently, certain her bow will solve the problem, while the dark mist behind her quietly begins to move. A goblin assassin materializes directly behind the archer, red eyes glowing beneath its hood. Their single visible warrior was bait, and the humans have walked into a coordinated ambush built around their own formation. The captain orders everyone to close ranks and surround the long-range fighters, but the command comes too late. The archer is down, the formation is broken, and unseen attackers already control every angle. Hero-class goblins pour from the shadows and crash into the scattered party. Blades, fists, and dark silhouettes overlap until the humans can no longer tell where one attacker ends and the next begins. Hero-class goblins keep hammering the shattered formation from every side. As another adventurer falls, the survivors finally understand the awful truth. They were never the hunters. They walked straight into a massacre prepared by the goblin clan. When the fighting ends, frightened cries echo through the trees. The victorious goblins gather abandoned weapons and take the survivors prisoner, proud of defeating the same humans who once treated them as pests. One warrior claims a female captive and begins making a sexual threat. The moment exposes a dangerous change inside the evolved clan. New strength has awakened entitlement, cruelty, and instincts Lin never authorized. Another hero-class goblin stops him and repeats Lin's actual order. Every human they meet must be captured and returned to the tribe, and no warrior may claim a captive for himself. Because the reckless warrior nearly killed one, he will receive nothing from the raid. Furious at the punishment, the strongest raider declares that the hero-class warriors should control the captives themselves. His complaint becomes an open challenge to Lin's rules, and the other evolved goblins immediately rally behind him. Other evolved warriors immediately agree. They are now the strongest members of the clan, so they argue the entire tribe should obey them, not the weaker goblins who stayed behind. The rebels carry their captives home, while their new hierarchy hardens in silence. Victory has brought the village valuable prisoners, but it has also produced the first organized challenge to Lin's authority. Under the full moon, shouts announce that the hero-class warriors have returned. The quiet village erupts as families rush outside, expecting a celebration after the clan's first great independent victory. The crowd sees several captured humans and roars Lin's name, believing his training made the triumph possible. At the center, however, the returning heroes stand apart, already imagining themselves above the leader they once praised. Freya quietly asks whether Lin can still control the warriors he created. Their bodies, confidence, and ambitions have grown together, and the tense procession suggests simple loyalty may no longer be enough. Goblin Tien hoists a captive and announces that he wants to eat his prize. The surrounding clan recoils, while the returning heroes watch to see whether Lin will dare contradict their strongest fighters. Lin steps forward and orders Tien to put the man down. This prisoner carries information he needs, so the command is not negotiable. For the first time, the entire village waits to see who will yield. Tien answers with a grotesque bargain. Lin can have the captive only if he hands over the women beside him. The demand turns simple disobedience into an open threat against the tribe's most vulnerable members. Shock flashes across the women's faces, but Lin remains unnervingly calm. He asks whether Tien understands what he is saying, then reminds the warrior of the one fact everyone seems eager to forget: Lin is their leader. The rebels laugh at the reminder. They declare Goblin Kwang stronger than Lin and announce that strength, not history, will decide whom they follow from this night forward. They identify Kwang, the evolved berserker, as their chosen leader. Lin faces the towering group without moving, while Kwang stands silently among them, giving no sign that he accepts their rebellion. Lin offers the loudest rebel one chance to earn forgiveness: capture Goblin Tien. The warrior only laughs, insisting Kwang is already their boss and will never obey Lin's command. Emboldened by the crowd, the rebels go further and threaten to kill Lin that very night. They imagine ruling the tribe themselves, blind to the silent giant standing directly behind their leader. Before Lin needs to respond, Kwang strikes. The rebels collapse around him in seconds, and the watching clan falls silent as the warrior they try to crown turns toward Lin and calls him boss. Kwang explains that leveling up changed more than his body. It sharpened his understanding. Unlike the arrogant fools at his feet, he recognizes Lin's intelligence, restraint, and right to command. But Kwang adds one condition that freezes the village. He respects Lin, yet he also respects absolute strength, and those two loyalties can coexist only if the leader proves himself. Kwang recalls how Lin became leader by defeating the previous chief. That ancient tribal law has not disappeared with evolution, and now the strongest son intends to test it for himself. Looking down at the goblin who raised him, Kwang makes his challenge respectfully, but unmistakably. He wants to try. The crowd parts, turning the village center into an arena between father and son. The system identifies Kwang as a level 54 armed warrior with 1,000 vitality, 340 strength, powerful berserk skills, and 1,200 overall combat power. Lin finally sees exactly how dangerous his child has become. Lin says he is proud of Kwang's growth, then lets his own power ignite across the square. With one final question, he accepts the challenge. Is Kwang absolutely certain he wants to fight him? The challenge erupts into a spectacle. Goblin Kwang's followers roar for him to crush Lin Tien, filling the settlement with vicious threats. Lin Tien only studies the crowd and notes one important detail: Kwang has gathered far more support than expected. Before the fight begins, Lin Tien gives every hero-class goblin one final choice: stand beside him now, or be treated as an enemy. The courtyard falls silent because everyone understands that this is not a bluff or negotiation. To the prisoners, Lin Tien hardly looks like the ruler of a hero-class clan. His plain appearance makes him seem almost forgettable. That impression gives the captives a dangerous burst of confidence, exactly when caution would serve them better. They quietly hope the goblin civil conflict will open an escape route, yet the difference between the two sides is obvious, and even magic may not close it. Their plan becomes simple: wait for the old leader to fall, then run. Goblin Kwang points to the divided ranks as proof that he is the better leader. Only a handful chose Lin Tien, and Kwang expects numbers to settle the argument. Lin Tien, however, has never measured authority by applause. Kwang rejects the idea that he is merely following the crowd. He claims he is different from the others, driven by one goal above everything else: strength. For him, this duel is not rebellion. It is a test of who deserves obedience. A watcher recognizes how much Kwang has changed since the forest. His presence is heavier, his body stronger, and his confidence absolute. Whatever happens next, Lin Tien is no longer facing the same goblin he once knew. Kwang attacks first, swinging with enough force to tear across the courtyard. Lin Tien slips away from every strike, turning raw power into wasted motion. The duel instantly becomes a clash between overwhelming strength and perfect timing. The spectators can barely follow Lin Tien's movement. Kwang admits his opponent is good, then gathers himself for a much heavier blow. If speed will not corner Lin Tien, Kwang intends to overwhelm the entire space around him. Lin Tien answers with a blazing weapon Kwang has never seen before. The attack closes the distance almost instantly, and Kwang's confidence finally cracks. For the first time tonight, he is not thinking about victory. He is thinking about survival. There is no time to dodge. so Kwang chooses the only option left. He plants his feet and tries to endure the strike head-on. It is reckless, but also perfectly consistent with a warrior who values strength above fear. To everyone's shock, Kwang smashes through the fireball and keeps charging. His endurance is monstrous, and the crowd thinks he has broken Lin Tian's defense. Then a cry cuts through the smoke, and the balance changes again. A violent burst swallows the arena, reducing the charge to fire, dust, and stunned silence. Lin Tian never loses his calm. The larger Kwang's attack becomes, the more clearly Lin Tian seems to see the exact opening inside it. The onlookers recoil as the smoke clears. Kwang is still moving, but surprise has replaced certainty on every face. What looked like his decisive rush has carried him straight into the range Lin Tian wanted all along. Kwang launches one last brutal strike, certain that no bare hand can stop it. Lin Tian catches the weapon anyway. He praises Kwang for the surprise, then reminds him of the fatal detail. His real opponent has been Lin Tian from the start. With Kwang's weapon trapped, Lin Tian counters before the larger goblin can recover. One clean reversal ends the contest. All that power, support, and confidence vanishes in a heartbeat, leaving Kwang with no excuse and no path forward. The secret is Blade Stealer, a rare skill that lets Lin Tian catch a weapon with his bare hands 3 times. Kwang's strongest move was never unstoppable. It simply collided with the exact counter Lin Tian had waiting. Lin Tian asks whether he wants to continue. Kwang refuses, kneels beneath the moon, and accepts the death penalty without begging. Defeated or not, he holds on to the pride that separated him from the followers behind him. Lin Tian is almost amused by Kwang's stubbornness. He expected resistance, but not this much courage after defeat. That refusal to crawl makes Kwang more useful in Lin Tian's eyes than all the louder rebels combined. The remaining rebels collapse into frantic promises, swearing they will never disobey again. Kwang watches them beg and calls them spineless. Their surrender may save their lives, but Lin Tian has already decided words are no longer enough. Instead of finishing Kwang, Lin Tian has Freya's healing magic pull him back to his feet. Golden light closes his injuries as Lin Tian offers a new rule: courage and loyalty can still earn a place in this clan. Lin Tian tells Kwang that as long as he remains loyal, he will live. Kwang can hardly believe the offer. Mercy after open rebellion is unexpected, but Lin Tian is not being soft. He is choosing the strongest foundation for future discipline. That mercy stops with Kwang. Lin Tian refuses to forgive the followers who change sides only after defeat, and he orders Kwang to deal with them. The command is harsh, deliberate, and meant to erase any doubt about future betrayal. Kwang accepts without hesitation. Grateful for his life, he swears to follow Lin Tian forever and asks to handle the rebels himself. In one moment, the former challenger becomes Lin Tian's most forceful example of earned loyalty. Kwang carries out the order away from the watching crowd. Afterward, Lin Tian commands the young goblins to feed on the fallen rebels and grow stronger. The grim lesson is unmistakable. Every act of disloyalty will strengthen the ruler it tried to overthrow. Across the settlement, the surviving goblins cheer for their boss and loudly promise loyalty. Fear has done what speeches could not. Lin Tian has ended the split, gained Kwang, and turned a rebellion into a public display of absolute control. Among the prisoners, someone asks Loader what kind of enemy he provoked. His answer destroys their remaining confidence. Lin Tian is no ordinary mutated goblin, but a monster capable of shaking the entire empire. Lin Tian steps in with a cruel little apology for making Loader miss the show. Then he asks whether Loader truly expected these battered rescuers to save him. The silence answers first, and Lin Tian calls that hope exactly what it was: naive. One captive lashes out at the sword saintess, blaming her for staying safely inside Brighttown. Another laughs through the humiliation. Their anger has nowhere useful to go, so they turn on the distant commander who failed to prevent this disaster. The prisoners finally admit they underestimated Lin Tian, but they still cling to one threat. Once the sword saintess defeats the purple gold dragon mother, they say, she will bring the royal knights here and erase this entire clan. Lin Tian laughs because their final hope is built on a lie. The dragons are not attacking Brighttown independently. Hearing that the assault continues tells him the dragon mother's side of his plan is working just as intended. The captive finally understands. Brighttown and the Royal Knights have both been maneuvered exactly where Lin Tian wanted them. With his information already exposed, he stops bargaining and asks Lin Tian to end his life rather than prolong the humiliation. He says death is preferable to sharing Loder's fate. Lin Tian accepts the request with chilling calm. A moment later, the captive's voice is gone. There is no triumph in his decision, only the cold efficiency of a ruler closing one more loose end. Back in Brighttown, a knight rushes into the Sword Saintess's chamber and calls for her urgently. His posture says more than his words. Whatever news he carries has already shattered the confidence of everyone outside the room. The Sword Saintess assumes the returning knights have arrived after the dragons were repelled. When the messenger answers yes but cannot finish, her expression changes. The victory she expected is suddenly beginning to sound like a catastrophe. She demands the truth. Of the entire rescue force, only one knight returned, and he was gravely wounded. For a commander who dismissed the goblins as a minor distraction, the report lands like an impossible verdict. Her disbelief hardens into rage as Lin Tian's true threat becomes clear. The lone survivor is carried inside in critical condition. Even healing potions cannot save him. The Sword Saintess keeps her questions focused, asking how he was injured so badly and what happened to every knight who traveled with him. Between broken breaths, the survivor reports a group of hero-class goblins. He begs the Sword Saintess to save his captain and the others, still unaware that there may be no one left to rescue. His warning is all he can offer. He manages one final message: be careful, because these goblins are extraordinary. Then his strength gives out. The warning dies with him, leaving the room to absorb how completely a supposedly simple rescue mission has collapsed. The knights around the bed are stunned. None of them can accept that goblins caused this much damage. Shock quickly turns into anger, because believing the enemy is weak feels easier than admitting Brighttown has misjudged the threat. Several knights demand immediate retaliation. Hero class or not, they call the goblins low-level beasts and want to march out at once. Their outrage is understandable, but it is exactly the emotional response Lin Tian's wider strategy is designed to provoke. The Sword Saintess stops them. Dragon attacks are becoming more frequent, and abandoning Brighttown could invite another strike or a goblin ambush. She admits the painful truth: she cannot defeat both threats alone, no matter how furious she is. Her answer is to reinforce the town. More troops will protect Brighttown while the situation develops, preventing panic from opening a second front. It is a cautious decision, but caution also gives Lin Tian precious time to prepare. The Sword Saintess promises that when the time is right, she will personally destroy the goblins and the purple gold dragon mother. Her vow restores some confidence in the room, but it does nothing for the missing Silver Blade team. When someone mentions Silver Blade, the question becomes whether they have any chance of surviving. A subordinate answers coldly that there is no reason to mount another rescue. In his judgment, that team is already beyond saving. The room dismisses Silver Blade as victims of their own arrogance. Boastful fighters die first, one knight says, and the team's reputation no longer matters. Then a new voice offers to turn the failure into his personal assignment. The volunteer is Kasimov, captain of the Reaper Knights. With his face hidden behind a dark mask and a fearsome reputation preceding him, he looks less like a rescuer than an executioner. His title alone changes the mood inside the chamber. Kasimov offers to rescue any survivors and clear out the goblins by himself. The others immediately object. An entire team was destroyed, yet he wants to go alone. Kasimov does not sound reckless. He sounds completely certain. His confidence comes from surviving 4 Titan warriors alone. Compared with that, Kasimov believes a group of hero-class goblins cannot even hurt him. He tells everyone to stay behind and wait for good news, then prepares to hunt. At the goblin settlement, Lin Tian senses the next move coming and opens the simulation panel. He is not willing to trust victory to momentum. If the humans are preparing a counterattack, he wants to see its shape before it arrives. The simulation begins with success. Lin Tian leads the goblins and dragon to victory, forms a hero-class clan, destroys disloyal subjects, and gains respect from both races. Then the system reveals the price hidden inside that triumph. Under the Sword Saintess's order, Kasimov infiltrates the clan and kills many before Lin Tian can restrain him. Victory still comes, but the losses are enormous. Lin Tian is forced to ask how one man can damage an entire clan. The system offers 3 paths: migrate, ambush, Kasimov, or attack first and kill him. Migration earns nothing, the ambush earns 10 points, and the first strike earns 20. The highest scoring choice also promises the fewest losses in a direct confrontation. Lin Tian chooses to attack first. Waiting would let Kasimov pick the battlefield and inflict maximum damage, while striking early offers the lowest losses. It is aggressive, but in Lin Tian's mind, aggression is simply prevention, delivered on time. Despite the 20-point result and the 3 days remaining, Lin Tian does not rush blindly. Anyone capable of hurting the clan this badly deserves investigation, so his first objective changes from killing Kasimov to learning exactly who Kasimov is. News of Kasimov's approach reaches the prisoners, and their despair instantly becomes celebration. They laugh across the settlement, convinced that someone competent has finally arrived. To them, Kasimov is not merely reinforcement, he is their guarantee that the Goblin clan will fall. They boast that Kasimov has fought many Titan warriors and warn the goblins they are finished. Lin Tian notices how completely they trust this man. Rather than argue, he asks one simple question: what exactly are Titan warriors? The prisoners explain that Titan warriors are soldiers altered with Titan genes by an enemy nation. They can destroy Class 5 beasts with their bare hands. Surviving 4 of them alone makes Kasimov far more dangerous than his title suggests. The captives keep taunting, certain the story will frighten him. Lin Tian only smiles and admits Kasimov may be formidable after all. The more impressive the enemy sounds, the more determined Lin Tian becomes to gather reliable intelligence first. Lin Tian decides caution is the only sensible answer. Instead of confronting Kasimov without information, he sends someone to investigate. The coming battle becomes a contest of intelligence. Whoever uncovers the other side's plan first will control the opening move. Elsewhere, Kasimov rides alone beneath a darkening sky, deeper into the silent forest. The road is empty, the birds scatter overhead, and the absence of ordinary movement makes his journey feel less like an advance and more like an ambush waiting to breathe. Kasimov notices there is not a single beast anywhere in the forest. That silence is too complete to be natural. Something powerful has cleared the area, and every quiet branch warns him that he has already entered hostile ground. He finds the Silverblade team's abandoned equipment and dismisses the fallen adventurers as useless trash. The ruined gear confirms that Kasimov is following the exact trail he was sent to investigate, and that the enemy he came to hunt may already know his route. The scent of a recent fight only excites Kasimov. Behind his mask, he wonders whether this mission will finally entertain him. The thought reveals the real danger. He has not entered the forest afraid of Lin Tian's clan. He has entered hoping for sport. Then a desperate cry echoes between the trees, begging someone to help. Kasimov slows his horse and listens. In a forest this unnaturally empty, the caller could be a survivor. But the voice could just as easily be a lure, the first move in Lin Tian's counterattack. Kasimov turns toward the sound and demands to know where it is coming from. The hidden caller offers no answer. Convinced he is hunting goblins, Kasimov fails to see the more dangerous possibility. Every step he has taken may have led him exactly where his enemy wants him. The mysterious voice draws Kasimov deeper between the trees. Certain that frightened goblins are hiding nearby, he urges his horse forward, never considering that the helpless caller may be guiding him toward a carefully prepared trap. Kasimov reins in when a lone woman appears beside the road. Her face seems familiar, but he cannot place it at first. As he studies the apparent survivor, the hidden trap gains another precious moment to close around him. The masked knight recognizes the speaker as Loder's companion and demands to know how she survived. Her frightened account sounds convincing, so his suspicion settles on the goblins ahead rather than the carefully staged encounter before him. Freya claims the rest of their force was destroyed and that she alone escaped the goblins. This simple story gives Kasimov both a survivor to trust and an enemy to blame, exactly what the hidden trap requires. Kasimov presses her for details, and Freya describes a desperate escape through the forest. Her story is emotional and believable enough to keep him focused on the supposed survivors instead of searching the trees around them. When Freya confirms that Loder is dead, Kasimov's shock quickly turns into satisfaction. With his rival gone, no ally can interfere, and Solo Knight can activate at full strength the moment he enters battle. Pressed for direction, Ephraia points him toward the Tianquang tribe and urges him onward. She gives Kasimov a destination and the illusion of control, while keeping his attention away from Lin Tian's hidden forces. With the tribe location supposedly confirmed, Kasimov drives his horse deeper into the forest. Every hurried stride carries him farther from support and closer to the clearing Lin Tian prepared for his arrival. Once separated from Ephraia, Kasimov activates Solo Knight. Fighting without an ally grants him a 30% elemental boost, turning isolation from a weakness into the foundation of his entire combat strategy. The assassin can barely hide his excitement. Fighting alone grants a 30% elemental boost, and every enemy he kills adds another stacking increase until the battle ends. To Kasimov, an entire goblin tribe now looks like fuel. He imagines cutting through the weakest goblins first, building momentum with every victory, then crushing whatever elite fighters remain. The plan is brutal but logical, provided the enemy behaves like prey and gives him time to grow stronger. A sudden movement breaks his fantasy. The horse senses danger first, and the silent forest seems to close around them. Kasimov finally realizes he has reached an ambush, but the trap has already sealed every easy route away. Goblin warriors burst from cover and strike from several directions at once. Kasimov reacts quickly enough to survive the opening rush, yet the precision of the attack tells him this is no random pack of monsters. As Kasimov searches for the commander behind the assault, Lin Tian steps into view. The goblin leader is calm, fully prepared, and clearly unsurprised to see the assassin standing exactly where the false survivor directed him. Kasimov spots Lin Tian standing beside Ephraia and lunges straight at him. The reckless charge gives the pair exactly what they need, a clear line for the counterattack they prepared before he entered the clearing. Ephraia turns on the man who came to rescue her and unleashes Holy Light Blast. The radiant attack crashes into Kasimov from behind, proving that every frightened glance and whispered plea was part of Lin Tian's deception. The radiant blow sends Kasimov reeling. Lin Tian immediately sees the weakness behind Solo Knight. Kasimov came alone to maximize his buff, so there's no ally nearby to protect him from a second attacker. Kasimov finally connects Ephraya's attack to Lin Tian. Her obedience was manufactured through coercion, yet the result is the same in this battle. The ally he expected has become the second attacker his Solo Knight build cannot handle. Ephraia drives another wave of holy power across the battlefield. The blast denies Kasimov the space he needs to target weaker goblins, forcing him to defend himself while Lin Tian studies every skill and piece of equipment he reveals. Lin Tian closes a hand around the black steel sword and inspects it at once. The weapon's status window identifies it as enchanted equipment carrying death reaping, turning the assassin's strongest advantage into the tribe's prize. The full reading reveals why the weapon is so dangerous. Death reaping combines high attack speed, wider area effects, and a 90% critical damage increase, exactly the kind of skill that can multiply the advantage of Kasimov's class. Lin Tian raises the captured sword as if it already belongs to him. Had Kasimov secured a few early kills, the weapon and his stacking class could have placed every goblin in the clearing at terrible risk. Lin Tian explains that Ephraya's opening strike broke that dangerous sequence before it began. With Kasimov denied a first victim, the assassin cannot build momentum, leaving one enchanted weapon as his remaining advantage. Kasimov looks down in disbelief. The black steel sword is already gone, stolen so quickly he barely saw Lin Tian move. With it, the opening he needed to build momentum disappears. Only now does Kasimov understand the full trap. Lin Tian ordered Ephraia to lure him here, arranged the ambush around his unique ability, and waited until the black steel sword appeared before stealing it. Lin Tian tells Kasimov that the feared assassin has disappointed him, treating the man's reputation as another weakness exposed by the trap. Even Kasimov's fury cannot hide how completely the ambush dismantled his plan. Kasimov cannot understand how Lin learned his class and equipment. Rather than admit he was outplanned, he falls back on contempt, still insisting that a lowly goblin could never defeat him. Humiliated but not broken, Kasimov insists he can still win without the sword or his stacking advantage. He gathers his remaining power and charges, gambling everything on raw speed before the surrounding goblins can close in. Lin Tian answers Kasimov's final threat with a cold smile. The assassin promises to send him to hell. Lin simply says the battle will decide who gets there first. The surrounding warriors close in. Fire and steel swallow the clearing as Lin Tian's warriors press their advantage. Kasimov's last counterattack disappears beneath the coordinated assault, and the feared Grim Reaper becomes another defeated piece in Lin Tian's growing campaign. Lin Tian returns to the Tianquang tribe carrying proof of Kasimov's defeat. The settlement that once questioned his authority now sees another human champion fall, and every watching goblin understands who truly controls their future. Cheers spread through the village as the warriors crowd around their victorious leader. Lin Tian has not merely survived another hunt, he has brought down the assassin known as the Grim Reaper and delivered the spoils home. Looking down at the defeated Kasimov, Lin Tian mocks the grand title that once terrified ordinary soldiers. Reputation could not compensate for arrogance, and the Grim Reaper has become valuable only as a resource for goblin evolution. Lin Tian sees a pattern behind the human attacks. The sword saintess keeps sending isolated defenders into the forest, believing each squad will suppress the goblins, while every failed expedition only feeds his army more experience. Her strategy has turned Brighttown's strongest fighters into a steady ladder for goblin growth. Each supposed rescue force brings better equipment, richer energy, and another chance for Lin Tian's followers to evolve. Lin Tian gives Gobshan first claim on Kasimov's captured power. The younger goblin has shown the greatest potential in the tribe, so he receives the richest share before the others are allowed what remains. Lin Tian watches the preparations with a satisfied smile. Gobshan's strength, instincts, and unusually fast development suggest that this reward could open a rare evolutionary path, making one exceptional warrior more valuable than an equal share for everyone. The system begins evaluating Gobshan's transformation. Lin Tian waits for the result, convinced that concentrating the strongest prey in one promising warrior offers a better return than dividing that power evenly across the tribe. While the tribe celebrates, Lin Tian counts the enemy forces still available. The Sword Saintess began with only 3 major squads, and Silverblade has already been captured after its disastrous clash in the forest. Now Kasimov is gone as well. 2 elite groups have vanished in rapid succession, leaving Brighttown with fewer defenders and forcing its commander to reconsider every assumption she made about the goblin threat. Lin Tian knows the second defeat will do more than reduce enemy numbers. It will crush morale, spread fear through the garrison, and make the Sword Saintess feel that waiting behind the walls is no longer safe. That pressure is exactly what he wants. Once the humans are frightened enough, they will move according to urgency instead of caution, creating the opening his smaller force could never produce through a direct siege. Lin Tian opens another simulation and tests the next stage of his campaign. Every branch points toward the same conclusion. The town's commander must either abandon her position or send away the soldiers protecting it. The possible outcomes leave Lin Tian smiling. Kasimov's defeat was not merely a battlefield victory. It was the final push needed to make the humans choose between defending Brighttown and seeking reinforcements. He summons Goblin Kwang and orders him to gather the entire tribe. There will be no scattered hunting parties tomorrow. Lin Tian is preparing one coordinated operation meant to erase the remaining resistance around Brighttown. Goblin Kwang accepts the command without hesitation. At dawn, every available fighter will move, not for another defensive ambush, but for the largest attack the tribe has attempted since Lin Tian seized control. Far away, Brighttown still appears secure behind its walls. The people inside do not know that Lin Tian has already predicted their next decision, or that his forces are assembling before the alarm can reach them. Just over a day after Kasimov departed, his body is carried back into Brighttown. The speed of his defeat stuns the garrison and confirms that another elite warrior was eliminated before he could call for help. The hall falls silent as the Sword Saintess absorbs the news. Loader's group disappeared, Silverblade was lost, and now the Grim Reaper has been returned like a message. This enemy is acting with purpose. She finally connects the repeated ambushes with the dragons seen near the forest. Goblins and flying beasts are cooperating, which means the danger is larger, faster, and far better organized than her officers believed. Bright Town civilians have become leverage. If the Sword Saintess leaves to hunt the enemy, the city may be attacked. If she remains, her isolated soldiers will continue disappearing. Passive defense is no longer an answer. The Sword Saintess orders the entire Battle Roar squad to ride for the capital and request reinforcements. She refuses to gamble on a messenger when the road itself may already be watched. Her knights object immediately, sending the whole squad strips precious strength from the garrison, and the capital lies 4 hard days away. One rider offers to make the journey alone and preserve the city's defenses. The squad captain rejects the offer. Kasimov was stronger than any ordinary messenger, yet he died without sending a warning. A lone rider would be easier to silence and might leave Bright Town waiting forever. A full squad can break through an ambush long enough for at least one survivor to escape and report what happened. The plan sacrifices stealth for redundancy, giving their request a chance to reach the capital. The captain explains the Sword Saintess's impossible position. She could destroy almost any enemy outside the walls, but the moment she leaves, Bright Town and its civilians become exposed to a coordinated strike. Battle Roar must therefore punch through whatever blocks the road, deliver the warning, and return with enough soldiers to free their commander from the city. Every knight accepts that some of them may not come back. With time already running out, the squad departs at once. Their horses carry them toward the capital before dawn, while the captain keeps the formation tight and watches every bend for an ambush. The captain suddenly raises a fist and halts the column. Ahead, the familiar road ends at a ravine, and the silence around the crossing feels too deliberate to be simple bad luck. Their rope bridge has been destroyed. Taking the detour would cost valuable time, but a damaged crossing in the middle of their only direct route is an obvious sign that someone anticipated their departure. Several knights recommend riding around the ravine, but the captain refuses. If the enemy broke this bridge, then the longer route is probably where the real ambush is waiting for impatient travelers. He chooses a slower but controlled answer: rebuild the crossing where they stand. The squad cuts timber and works together, believing that refusing the hidden route has denied the enemy its intended battlefield. By dusk, a rough replacement bridge stretches across the ravine. The exhausted knights had lost hours, but their path to the capital is open again, and no attackers have appeared among the trees. The captain orders everyone across before night fully settles. Horses file onto the narrow structure one after another, leaving the squad suspended over the ravine with little room to turn or maneuver. Halfway across, daylight vanishes beneath an enormous shadow. The horses panic, the knights look skyward, and the captain realizes too late that the bridge itself, not the detour, was always the enemy's chosen trap. The dragon descends over the ravine, its wings blotting out the fading sky. The Battle Roar squad has nowhere to scatter, and the rebuilt ropes beneath their feet offer no protection from an attack above. Then the rider comes into focus. Lin Tian sits on the dragon's back, watching the trapped column from above. The goblin leader has followed their reasoning step by step and arrived before they could escape. Lin Tian congratulates them on avoiding the obvious detour, then reveals the crueler truth. He destroyed the original bridge precisely so they would waste hours rebuilding it and gather on one fragile target. The captain recognizes the trap in its entirety. Every delay, every cautious decision, and every step onto the replacement crossing placed his squad exactly where Lin Tian needed them, isolated above a deadly fall. Lin Tian gives a single command, and dragonfire pours toward the crossing. The squad raises weapons and shields, but courage cannot protect ropes and timber from a blast designed to erase the ground beneath them. Flames race across the handmade bridge. The structure twists under the heat as the knights scramble toward either bank, their orderly formation collapsing into a desperate fight for stable ground. When the fire clears, the replacement crossing is gone and the survivors are stranded. The ravine cuts off retreat. Goblins wait in the forest, and Lin Tian still controls the sky above them. The Battle Roar captain refuses to surrender. Even surrounded, he vows to capture Lin Tian and torture him to death, clinging to rage as the last route to the capital burns away. From the dragon's back, Lin Tian offers the trapped knights one last warning: defeat the goblins surrounding them quickly, he says. because the Dragon Mother is already approaching and will show them no mercy. The Battle Roar squad finds goblins closing from both sides of the ravine. With the bridge destroyed behind them and a dragon overhead, their disciplined march has become a battle on ground selected entirely by Lin Tian. Fear spreads when the knights hear that an even stronger dragon may be coming. Their commander, however, spots one narrow opportunity. If a single rider breaks through now, the Sword Saintess can still learn where they fell. He chooses Bane, the squad's fastest runner, and orders everyone else to hold the line. Bane activates Sprint and launches toward the forest while his companions turn to meet the encircling goblins. The knights charge together to open a corridor. Steel flashes through the narrow approach as they throw everything into protecting Bane's escape, accepting that every second they buy may cost another defender. Bane reaches the edge of the formation and sprints into open forest. A few goblins make token attacks, but none commit to stopping him, allowing the messenger to disappear far more easily than expected. The commander watches the escape route instead of celebrating. The goblins had several chances to close it, yet their line opened at precisely the right moment. Bane was not fortunate, he was deliberately released. One look at the waiting goblins confirms his fear. Their expressions show no frustration, no pursuit, and no surprise. Lin Tian wanted a survivor to reach the Sword Saintess with a terrifying story. The entire ambush suddenly takes on a second purpose. Battle Roar is not merely being destroyed, it is being used to send a message powerful enough to drag Brighttown's strongest defender away from her walls. Lin Tian openly confirms the deception. The Dragon Mother is not coming at all. Her name was Bait, chosen because no wounded survivor would risk delaying the warning once he believed she was involved. When Bane reports dragons and a doomed squad, the Sword Saintess will rush to the ravine herself. That response will leave Brighttown exposed at exactly the moment Lin Tian's real attack begins. The commander roars in fury as he understands how completely they have been used. Lin Tian remains calm above him because even the knight's anger now serves the plan by keeping every survivor focused on this battlefield. With escape no longer possible, the commander orders his remaining knights to bring down the goblin rider. If they can kill Lin Tian before the Sword Saintess arrives, their sacrifice may still protect the town. Battle Roar surges forward in one final charge. Their formation drives into the goblin line with desperate force, each knight trying to carve a path toward the dragon before the trap closes completely. The goblins meet them head-on. What should have been a quick breakthrough becomes a grinding clash as Lin Tian's evolved warriors coordinate their weapons and hold positions against trained human soldiers. The commander is stunned to find the goblins matching his knights in strength. These are no longer weak forest monsters. Under Lin Tian's leadership, they fight with the confidence and discipline of an elite unit. From his dragon, Lin Tian watches the commander recognize Casimov's black steel sword in Goblin Kwang's hands. The realization lands exactly as intended. Brighttown's champions have not merely fallen, but armed the tribe that defeated them. Lin Tian taunts the knights from safety, reminding them that every champion Brighttown sent into the forest has supplied his tribe with new weapons, skills, and strength. Their own campaign built the army now surrounding them. Despite his advantage, Lin Tian watches the forest carefully. Bane is fast, and the Sword Saintess may reach the ravine sooner than expected. The battle must finish before she can interfere. He orders the tribe to stop holding back. The goblins tighten their formation and launch a coordinated assault, trading caution for speed as they drive the surviving knights away from every possible escape. The renewed attack breaks Battle Roar's defensive rhythm. Goblins rotate through the front line, covering one another and forcing the exhausted humans to spend strength faster than they can recover it. Lin Tian repeats the deadline, finish them before the Sword Saintess arrives. His warriors answer with a roar, knowing that victory here matters only if the greater deception remains intact. A desperate knight unleashes gale suppression, blasting the front line with compressed wind. For a moment, the attack opens space and seems powerful enough to reverse the collapse around his wounded squad. The effort drains the last of his strength. Before the knight can follow through, his stance buckles and the goblins close the gap, turning his strongest technique into only a brief delay. One by one, the remaining defenders are disarmed and overwhelmed. The squad that hoped to reach the capital disappears beneath the closing formation. leaving only the messenger Lin Tian intentionally allowed to escape. Lin Tian wastes no time celebrating. The sword scientist could appear at any moment, so every warrior must clear the field, recover useful equipment, and leave behind only the evidence required for his deception. With the sword scientist already on her way, a warrior warns that time is running out. Lin Tian cuts the victory short and signals an immediate withdrawal before her rescue force can reach the ravine. Bane's warning brings the sword scientist racing through the forest. She pushes ahead of her support, expecting to find battle roar fighting for survival, while Lin Tian's forces are already vanishing from the ravine. She arrives to silence. No dragon waits overhead, no goblin army remains to challenge her, and no squad answers her call. The sword scientist understands immediately that she is too late. As she scans the ravine, one detail freezes the sword scientist. The battlefield has already been stripped. The attackers had enough time to finish the squad, take what they wanted, and disappear before she arrived. The sword scientist surveys the sparse remains and struggles to contain her anger. Battle war has been erased before she could save even one knight, yet the evidence does not match the overwhelming dragon attack she expected. Her officers ask where the dragons went. If an entire flight had attacked here, the ravine should be scorched from end to end. Instead, most of the damage came from ordinary weapons and goblin tracks. Bane repeats what he saw: a goblin riding a dragon, fire destroying the bridge, and the warning that the dragon mother was approaching. His terror makes every detail sound painfully certain. Bane begs her to annihilate the creatures responsible. Around him, grief becomes fury, but the sword saintess forces herself to study the field rather than surrender to the same emotion that brought her here. The scorch marks are too limited. One dragon may have burned the bridge, but no dragon mother fought here, and the goblins had enough time to strip the battlefield before retreating. Something is wrong. The sword saintess looks back toward the road and finally sees the trap. Bane was allowed to escape. The dragon threat was exaggerated, and her rescue force was pulled away from the one place she could not leave undefended. Bright Town was always the real target. Lin Tian sacrificed the chance to fight her directly, so he could lure her miles away, leaving dragons and goblins free to strike the civilians behind her. She turns her horse and races back without waiting for the others. Every minute on the road feels stolen, and the distant sky grows darker as the awful possibility becomes harder to deny. The warning comes before Bright Town is even in sight. Something is about to happen there. The column turns at once, but every lost minute now belongs to the enemy. In the ruins of Bright Town, a child kneels beside his fallen father and cries for him to wake. The sword saintess has returned, but for this family, her arrival has come far too late. She approaches gently, hoping to comfort him, yet the devastated street offers no words that can repair his loss. All the power in her sword cannot restore the people she failed to reach. The boy knocks her hand away before she can touch him. His grief has already hardened into anger, and the hero celebrated by the town suddenly becomes the easiest person for him to blame. The child's accusation spreads through the survivors around him. Each angry voice strikes deeper than a weapon because the sword saintess knows their grief contains a painful truth she cannot dismiss. Questions and accusations become a relentless chorus. The people demand apologies, challenge her worth, and pour every ounce of fear and loss onto the woman who is supposed to keep them safe. The sword saintess cannot defend herself. Her eyes empty as the voices close in, and the confidence that once carried an entire city begins to collapse from within. Overwhelmed by guilt and exhaustion, she crumples before the crowd. Lin Tian never needed to defeat her blade. By turning Bright Town against its protector, he has broken the spirit behind it. The stunned survivors remain gathered around their fallen champion. Her strength is unchanged, but her purpose has shattered, giving Lin the victory he wanted, without ever crossing blades with her. Far away, the Dragon Mother recognizes the elegance of Lin's victory. Without facing the Saint Use directly, he defeated her reputation, confidence, and purpose. The result makes their eventual reunion much more interesting. That night, the Tianquang tribe rests behind stronger walls than ever before. The settlement Lin once struggled to preserve now hums with the confidence of a force that has learned how to conquer. Lin returns under cover of darkness and immediately asks for the raid report. Celebration can wait. He wants to know whether Gobdi followed every instruction and what the tribe gained from the operation. Lin asks Gobdi whether the city raid unfolded as planned. The returning warriors stand ready with their report, and Lin's calm inspection makes clear that every detail of the operation matters. Gobdi confirms complete success. Their warriors seized supplies, returned with prisoners, and even accepted surrenders, proving that Lin's evolving goblins can now execute complicated missions far beyond simple raids. Gobdi also completed Lin's private order. He delivered gold to Kyria and safely escorted her family out of Bright Town, settling a debt that none of Lin's followers fully understands. Lin rewards Gobdi and Gobshana with first access to captured magical creatures. In his previous life, Kyria alone believed in him, so protecting her now is repayment, not charity. With Bright Town shattered, Lin believes the Sword Saintess has finally been broken. This temporary advantage is precious, and he intends to turn it into permanent security before she can recover. He flies back toward Dragon Island, using the alliance that made his deception possible. The trip is no victory lap. Lin needs the dragons to keep pressure on Bright Town while his clan develops. Lin thanks the Dragon Mother and asks her to continue sending raiders at irregular intervals. Even small attacks will keep the Saintess trapped by responsibility and deny humanity time to reorganize. The Dragon Mother agrees to continue the raids, then demands Lin himself as her reward. Her desire comes with an unmistakable threat. Refusing someone this powerful is not a safe option. After the coerced encounter, Lin's system records the result: 1900 health, 600 attack, and 1400 defense. The stat gain is real, but it did not come from an equal bargain. Lin registers the huge increase, then immediately plans to leave while the Dragon Mother sleeps. Whatever power he gained, he has no intention of remaining where another demand can be forced on him. He slips out while the Dragon Mother sleeps and reaches one of her children outside. Leaving unnoticed is the only sensible choice when his powerful ally is also dangerously unpredictable. The young dragon carries Lin away from the island before anyone stops him. His escape is successful, but the speed of his departure reveals that even he refuses to test the Dragon Mother's patience. The Dragon Mother soon realizes he is gone, yet she is more amused than angry. Lin's relentless ambition convinces her that this goblin may truly lead his people into an entirely new world. A shocked cry breaks the morning calm at Tianquang. Lin has gathered the elven captives and announced a decision none of them imagined hearing from the goblin who once controlled their lives. Around the settlement, the elves wait for an explanation. Lin now intends to use newly captured humans for reproduction, so he claims the elves are no longer needed and offers them the freedom they should never have lost. Lin tells every elf she may leave. The release ends their captivity, but his reason is chilling. He plans to transfer the tribe's forced breeding system onto its human prisoners. Privately, his calculation is more ambitious. Elves possess long lives, knowledge, and influence, making voluntary loyalty far more valuable than obedience. By opening the gate, he hopes some will choose him. Kasena's mother is allowed to depart, but Kasena herself asks to remain. She has watched Lin transform a doomed settlement into a growing power and believes following him may offer a remarkable future. She promises not to cause trouble if he lets her stay. Lin immediately recognizes the value of an intelligent ally who understands both elven society and the rapidly changing world outside. Her decision shocks the others, especially the family members ready to take her home. Kasena refuses to change her mind, choosing uncertain opportunity over the safety of returning to her former life. Then more elves step forward and pledge themselves to the tribe. Lin's gamble succeeds. Freedom becomes proof that his rule is changing, and trust begins replacing the fear that once held them. Lin accepts their choice but changes their status. Anyone who stays will no longer be treated as a captive or exploited. They will become protected subordinates of Tianquang. Lin's guarantee transforms the arrangement completely. For him, their growing trust is more than emotion. It is the foundation of a diverse society built around allegiance instead of species. With the Sword Saintess temporarily broken and no immediate enemy pressing them, Lin sees a rare window for growth. He intends to fill it by raising a much larger generation of hero-class goblins. A goblin's complaint exposes the brutality in Lin's plan. The captured humans are being treated as breeding stock, and forcing the process would place their lives in immediate danger. Kasana proposes artificial breeding instead. The method could prevent direct physical assault, but the human captives still have no say in Lin's reproductive program. The coercion changes form rather than disappearing. Before Lin can examine the proposal further, an urgent shout announces that Gobu-san may be dead. Lin races toward the gathering, where the waiting warriors can offer no explanation for their companion's sudden collapse. Lin finds Gobu-san motionless on the ground and demands an explanation. The surrounding goblins can only stare. None of them understands why one of their strongest companions suddenly collapsed. Witnesses say Gobu-san hid nearby, scratching himself frantically until he stopped moving. The strange behavior suggests that his earlier mutation never truly ended and may now be tearing through him again. Gobu-san gasps and convulses as hard growths begin forcing their way through his skin. To the watching goblins, the violent change looks less like an evolution than a death throe. Gobu-san suddenly rises. The apparent corpse was only a shell being rebuilt from within, and the warrior emerges alive, laughing as an entirely different form takes shape around him. He has evolved into a level 50 mutant berserker, larger and more dangerous than before. Bone armor now covers his body, turning the painful mutation into a powerful new combat form. The towering figure is Gobu-san, alive and radically changed. The system identifies him as a level 50 mutant goblin, confirming that the apparent death was an evolution rather than a collapse. Lin realizes why Gobu-san survived the process. The attributes Lin gained through the Dragon Mother were inherited strongly enough to keep the goblin alive while his body rebuilt itself. Gobu-san celebrates, amazed that he returned stronger instead of dying. His success proves that Lin's improved bloodline can produce descendants capable of surviving evolutions that once would have been fatal. Lin orders the tribe to focus on cultivating the next generation. One extraordinary mutation is encouraging, but he needs an entire army of exceptional goblins before humanity discovers how quickly they are advancing. 3 months pass, and Bright Town begins rebuilding beneath a clear sky. The ruins no longer dominate every street, but the disaster has left fear and rumors embedded throughout the city. Inside a crowded tavern, travelers trade stories about the Sword Saintess. Some believe she can recover. Others quietly wonder whether the region's most famous protector has already been defeated. The conversation draws adventurers who came for the royal bounty. Gold and reputation have transformed Lin's tribe from a local threat into a prize that ambitious fighters cannot ignore. One newly arrived captain dismisses the danger completely. He boasts that his Bloodstorm heroes are not ordinary soldiers, and a collection of goblins will never be worthy opponents for them. The diamond-ranked hero captain is introduced as Sir Earl. His rank makes the next expedition far more dangerous than the squads Bright Town sent before. Over those same 3 months, the system records 153rd generation hero-class goblins and 3 royal bounty notices worth 100 gold coins, a rapid expansion built on the clan's coercive breeding program. Adventurers from gold rank through mythical rank begin converging on the forest. Among them are diamond and epic opponents whose strength could erase the progress Tianquang fought so hard to build. The system rates the crisis 10 out of 10, multiplies the reward, and advances the projected timeline by 1 month. This is not a warning about a distant future. The danger is already moving. Lin studies the forecast and focuses on the epic-ranked enemy, a threat that may even surpass the Sword Saintess. Raw numbers alone will not protect his clan from that level of power. Worse, the simulation offers no guiding prompt this time. Lin must choose a strategy without knowing which decision the system rewards, forcing him to rely entirely on his own judgment. A subordinate arrives with another troubling report, and Lin immediately asks what is wrong. The tribe's explosive growth has finally created a crisis that strength alone cannot solve. The report reveals 2 shortages at once. Food is running low as the new generation matures, and the nearby iron mines are almost depleted. Staying would leave the growing tribe hungry and poorly equipped. Lin decides that Tianquang must relocate. The crisis is also an opportunity. A more defensible home with fresh resources could protect the tribe from the adventurers already hunting them. He orders everyone to move immediately. There is no time for debate or sentiment. Every family, warrior, prisoner, and supply cart must leave before their enemies can surround the settlement. Their scouts discover a waterfall concealing a vast cave system. Steep cliffs hide the entrance, while water, stone, and the surrounding forest provide the natural defenses and resources Lin needs. Beyond the falls, deep tunnels stretch into the mountain. The underground network is large enough to house the growing clan and complicated enough to turn any invading army into lost prey. Lin assigns Goblin Kwang and Gobdi to clear the passages and secure the perimeter. Goblin Moon will manage the captives and children, ensuring that the migration remains organized even underground. Torches spread through the caverns as the tribe begins reshaping stone into a home. Every cleared passage and reinforced wall turns the hidden mountain into a fortress built for the clan's future. The entire clan enters its new stronghold and cheers for Lin. He welcomes them home, then establishes the first rule of survival underground. Everyone must work, obey, and build together.